Either if you beat it, I'd be even more impressed, actually.
Well, I've got a mountain of stuff to do, like in terms
All
of
right.
video games before then. And no, I haven't even touched that other video game that I told you was in the way.
Yeah,
Um,
I was just hoping there was on the small chance that since
oh
you
no, not
have
even
beaten it,
close. Not even
you
close.
can watch all seasons, and then I can actually talk about it, but I can't talk about The Last of Us.
I'm told well, I saw the YouTube title. This is literally as much as I've seen that like someone on YouTube accused the season 2 of being bad. Um,
I saw a couple of YouTube videos like that as well. I even watched one. I don't think it was bad. I think that's what I would have wanted to have discussed with you. Uh, but I guess
it'll
I'll have to wait a few years.
I watched it all.
it'll be
Oh yeah,
it'll
really?
literally be
And
years.
I've heard some complaints about Homegirl's head just continuously growing larger throughout the season.
what?
Yeah, they said
Those are the dumbest complaints. I've heard that
it's a
too.
I think it's pretty accurate. She actually looks like she's got a bigger head now every time I see her on television.
Even if that's the case,
What was
might.
the
who
what was the
cares?
guy? She literally went from Ellie or whatever the character's name was to MODOK, like overnight. It's pretty impressive with no CGI. Or the
Alright.
leader. I don't know which one. Probably the leader is more accurate, but yeah, same thing.
Oh god, the leader.
So wait,
Well,
Lacto, were you joking? You actually watched it?
I actually watched it. I watched the full first season and second season.
Okay, and did you enjoy it?
Yeah, the first season was incredible. The second season was
Really?
meh.
Okay.
Yeah,
Well, I guess
I don't think it was as good as the
can't
first
spoil
season.
anything. But okay, fair enough.
so Lactoid, the thing that Corey is complaining about, and rightfully so, honestly, is the fact that, and Doobie makes fun of me about this too. He's done it on stream. Um, so The Last of Us, like the original game, I attempted to play it. Actually, this is probably a better word. Um, but I got stuck on like it's not a puzzle. It's like a dungeon, like opening dungeon, and I just like couldn't get past this thing. Like here's I've been trying every so often, right? I'll like go back in, I'll try that, and I wasn't able to. And
Watch a fucking
so
walkthrough, dude. What the fuck?
no, I have walked. I watched
I
them
mean,
all.
I've
Like
discussed all of this with him. That's rehashing the exact same conversation.
Is it that hard, or is it just like the puzzle?
it's
If
fucking
it's a
me.
puzzle, just watch a fucking walkthrough, see exactly how it's
It
done, and just do it that way.
it's not. Look. Okay, I can describe it to you. I can describe it to you. Right. Look, it's this area, right, where like it's like a floor of a building, like an apartment building, maybe, or something, right? Just like a floor of a building, and you go into the building, and you got to get from like point A to point B, right, to this other side. But between them, there's the zombies, and they're all doing their patrol points, right? You got to basically sneak past them without getting discovered.
Yeah.
And I've seen people do it online, right? I have looked at this, but like every time I try it, like one of those fucking zombies sees me, and stop me, and I have been stuck there like literally for years, for like over a decade, I think, since my and because of that, like I haven't played the rest of the game, which means I don't know what the rest of the story is, which means I don't want to be spoiled by the actual show, which means I haven't watched either of the seasons.
And he can't watch it until he passes the game, which could be who knows.
It could be
That's
another decade
insane.
from now. Yeah. Yeah, Doobie knows about me like getting caught on this one area. He makes fun of me about that. But one day I'm aiming for it.
I'm waiting for that day. I guess I'll have to discuss it with Lactoid at some point,
Yeah.
without spoiling it on the panel.
Yeah.
Did you play the game, Lactoid?
Nope,
Okay.
I just saw the two seasons. I will say that the people, I mean this sincerely, like there's plenty of criticisms to be made about the show, season 2 especially, but I did find it a little bit weird that people were like really concerned about like how attractive the kid was. It's like a
Mm.
little bit bizarre. Didn't like that.
Mm-hmm,
I agree.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
There's lots of
I just
weird
I just
commentary on
posted
the show.
a 1 minute video in there. It's the best commentary on The Last of Us. Period. It's actually the definitive take on reviews on The Last of Us. I think you should watch it. It'll be good for your soul.
Okay.
Well,
Uh,
I think the thumbnail gives it all away.
it's probably like critical drinker nonsense or something.
It's I think it's Goo is the guy's name.
Doesn't inspire confidence that name, but but okay. But in any case, yeah, I hope to get to it at some point. Um, what other good shows?
Didn't
Andor
Andor just wrapped up? Yeah.
Andor did wrap up. And amazing. Yeah, I was telling you the other day. Yeah, that like fantastic. And then I watched Rogue One immediately after, right? And it just like goes like from one movie right into the other movie, right? So it's one
Fantastic,
the
yeah.
series right into the movie, right? And that movie goes right into A New Hope, the first Star Wars. So it's really good. It's Rogue One like takes on a different context. Like once you see the prequel, like the prequel like adds so much more like emotional weight and depth to like the movie in itself because you don't get that much time with those characters in the movie. Um, but like you're forced to care about a lot more of them because of the show. And the show is just tour de force. I'm telling you, season 2, there's an episode there, right? Like it needs to win all the Emmys, all of them, all of them.
You're talking
It's
about
so
the
good.
Gorman one?
Yeah, I'm talking about the
Yeah.
Gorman one.
I mean, there's several episodes in there I think probably need to win like some kind of award in
Did
season
season 1 win
Amazing.
anything? I don't keep track of these things. Not
two.
that it matters.
I don't
I don't
know.
know. I don't know actually. That was 2 years ago, right? Yeah, it was like a few years ago. But yeah, it's fantastic. You should take a look. And there was another one I was going to talk about. Oh, Handmaid's Tale is the series finale happens tomorrow actually.
Series
And
finale. Oh,
series finale. Did
I'm
I
way
not
behind
say
then.
series? I meant
Yeah, no, you
series,
did.
yeah.
I'm just making sure that I'm confirming how far behind I am in that series on like episode 4 on season
The
1.
end of season 6 is the end of the series. Yeah. So it's fantastic, I think. I think the last season it's been pretty good. But like, it's like, hey, we gotta wrap up these storylines type thing, like we have these threads and we just gotta like get down this checklist. It kind of
Like
gives you
Game of
that
Thrones towards the end. At least that's how I.
a lot of people did die. A lot of people did die. So there's that. But yeah, but they have to like kind of like, but not as bad as like the end of Game of Thrones. No. I think it's good. But I just think other seasons might have been stronger. So but just it's kind of is what it is when it's like a long series like this. You just kind of have to like wrap up these things that's been like hanging out there. So but definitely worth it. I recommend it to anyone. All right.
Got
Let's
a lot of TV to catch up on.
indeed. What are we doing here? Let's do it this way. Okay. All right. So the gang's all here. Hello all. This is Every Roundtable, which we do Mondays, 8 p.m. Eastern. Glad you're all here. Excited. Why does it say 1080p now? Huh, this is a new thing. Sorry, my screen it says something it didn't say before. All right. Any which way, thank you all. So I'll introduce you all, and we'll go from there. We'll start with our friend Lactoid. Lactoid, thank you for being around. How are you?
Yeah, I'm Lactoid. You can find me at Lactoid TV on Twitch, Twitter, and YouTube. Happy Memorial Day, or I guess what's it called? Somber Memorial. Thoughts out, heart wishes to all the people who passed.
Sounds sincere.
Oh, okay.
Shout out to the boys,
Whatever the other people say, I'll just go with them.
Just shout out to the boys. That's all you got to do.
I've been drinking a little, just so we're clear.
In memorial of them. Did you pour one out for them?
Absolutely, I've been pouring them out.
You poured one out for the boys? All right, there we go. That's what you got to do.
Some might call it spilling, but I would pour it out for them.
First of all,
Is there a correlation?
Hold on. He can't even drink alcohol. Don't let him tell you what the conditions are for with alcohol. All right, Lactoid. Don't let him give you a hard time.
In my heyday, I would outdrink you. I still might be able
Listen,
to stand up.
I gotta tell you something. A lot of people have made that claim to me. A lot of people. I have yet to see it happen. Everybody says that, so I break out the
Right
Everclear,
now,
and we
absolutely
start
not.
doing shot for shot. That's
I feel like
What's
Gibbs has the
my
body
highest
weight.
shot count
Yeah.
is 22, and then the chaser also had we had a half gallon of Frizz vodka, FRIS, and there was Monster and Frizz in the chaser and 22 shots. So what is that?
You know what 190 proof diesel is? That's what we was drinking. I don't want to hear
Oh,
nothing out of you, bro. We were stripping paint, then we were doing swigs. My liver is the color of Darth Vader over here. That's all.
Why would you brag about that? I don't
Oh.
understand how
With
that's the point of bragging. Like, yeah,
It's-
I'm on the
it's
point
I
of
was like
cirrhosis.
I was like
You just don't
19,
get it,
man.
Corey.
You're
just
right.
don't get
I
it,
literally
Corey.
don't get it. I got the
It's
black
called-
lung. I can't wait to
called
get the
being
lung
a
crack
man.
back.
That's what it is. All right. Sometimes you do stuff for manliness. All right.
Before we move on, I was going to comment on Lactoid shirt. Lactoid, how many shirts do you actually wear to these panels, or at home in general? Like when you're at home, how many shirts do you have in rotation there?
I have a lot of shirts, but I can only wear a certain amount to these panels because a lot of them have identifying logos and stuff on them.
Okay.
So I got a
There you
smaller shirt rotation for stream panels, but this is also very
Actually,
comfortable, and so I like just to throw it on.
like a question: has anyone ever been like, "Hey, is this you?" And then busted out one of your
No,
really,
not
you've
yet, no.
avoided that.
Not yet.
Interesting. Okay.
I mean, I don't know if Lactoid yet, right? He's a superstar, but I don't think he's like broken out yet. I don't think
True,
everyone's bothered.
Just give it time.
No, I mean no, I'm talking
Yeah.
about locally, just someone that not even like a random person in the street, but someone who's maybe because your phone number's in their phone, their algorithm just hits. It's like, hey, recommended for you, Lactoid
Nope.
TV.
No, nothing so far. And when that happens,
Alright,
I'll have to answer
well,
a lot of questions, I'm sure.
Oh God. Yeah. They're gonna go down that manifesto.
You're
It'll
Canadian?
just be the regular conversations.
So tell me about these Teletubbies.
Oh God. All right. Next, we have our friend Admiral Gibbs, him of the Iron Liver. Or at least we hope so, right? It's an iron liver until it actually completely fails you, right?
A
Well,
rusted
Until there's a
liver.
It's a
catastrophic
rusted liver,
collapse.
Yeah, I mean, hopefully it's like carbon. We get it under pressure, and it's gonna turn into a diamond, and then I piss it out. That's called a kidney stone. Don't worry about it. All right? I don't know if that's the science behind it, but yeah,
Okay. But yeah, thank you for being here, Gibbs.
I'm excited. I brought props for today's topic. They're not props. They're gonna be. You'll see. They're good.
Oh God, you brought for today's topic.
Yeah, good ones. It's gonna be
Based.
amazing.
Okay. I'm a
Gibbs
little
pushing the
worried.
limit.
TOS, you
Yeah.
be ready. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah,
Don't worry.
it's
Don't
like-
worry. We won't break TOS. I, unlike some people, Nazi points, have never broken TOS on anybody else's channel.
Okay. I appreciate you, Gibbs. Let's go to our friend Corey. Corey, clean living Corey. All right. Unlike the rest of you degenerates, Corey, and better than me, honestly. From what I've heard, what you've described to me about yourself, Corey. Yeah, even you surpass myself greatly. So shout out to you.
Oh, that's very kind. I'm not gonna lie. I am proud of the fact that I have normal liver levels. Okay, based off of all the blood tests that I get. My ALT and AST is in the reference range. I hope it works out in Gibbs's favor, regardless of whatever it is that he drinks. And I do have some concerns based off of the stream title and what I know of the topic. Should he burn down Slate Plantations? And he's like, I got props. I can't wait to break out my props. That to me, that screams red flag. But I hope again that also works out in Prime's favor, not be banned. But yes, you can find me on Twitch, CoreyCampbell94, Twitter, X, YouTube, Instagram, Substack. It's Corey Campbell. And as always, looking forward to getting into it.
Livers are generally robust organs, right?
They're
But
typically very
If we
resilient.
generate,
Yes, they
Yeah.
are. They are the only organ that you can transplant half of it, and it will regenerate into the new patient into a full liver.
Exactly. So I think our friend Gibbs's win condition, considering how he lives his life, is that it just lasts as long as the rest of him, which
Yeah.
won't last very long.
I don't want to live that long anyway, bro.
Yeah.
Unless they upload me to the cloud or something. Fuck all that. That's this whole thing.
Okay. Let's go clockwise then. We'll go to our friend Ali. Ali, thanks for being here. How are you, friend?
Doing good, doing good. I don't have any props for nothing came to mind. But I am looking forward to get into this. If I hear just like real quick, if I hear stochastic terrorism one more time, okay, one more time from anyone, I, no more, no more.
We're all gonna say it now. We're all gonna trigger the fuck out of you by saying
that,
it.
that, that word
What
that
was
words
the
put
word?
that words put the
What is the
what's
word?
it literally means like if you say bad. I guess if you say bad things like against people, now you're a stochastic terrorist. I don't fucking know.
Who is saying
Every,
these words?
everyone is a stochastic terrorist. I was on a WIC panel. I think Friday.
I'll explain what it is, but finish your opening.
Yeah, I'm Sociologic. You can find me at Twitch, Twitter, and YouTube. Looking forward to get into this discussion, actually. So,
Stochastic terror is basically the idea that you can put messages out that call for like indirect violence, right? Like indirectly calls for violence. That says like for instance, I guess abortion providers, right? You can say, well, like here's these information on these abortion providers. They're baby killers. Someone should do something. I wish someone somewhere would do something about it. Now I'm not going to say what I want you to do, right? But so I if only someone would defend the children, right, and do what needs to be done, something like that, that would be stochastic terrorism, encouraging the population to do that violence without necessarily saying specifically, here's the targets and here's what you do. So our friend Aiko is struggling. Our friend Aiko is struggling here. Aiko, are you there? All right. Well,
I'm here.
we'll get
Yeah,
back.
I just need to get into StreamYard now.
All right. Well, say your piece.
Is there a pre-topic? Or what are we saying? What am I saying? My piece
No, we
on?
haven't said anything yet. No, we haven't done anything yet.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Well, I don't know that I have a piece to say except I'm Mike Rich. You can find me on I guess Blue Sky and Twitter at this same address, and yeah, that's about it. The debate coach out of Texas.
Thank you so much. And last but not least, we have a new individual who is shown up. They messaged me. They're like, "I want to come on." I'm like, "All right, cool." And today we had a lot of openings. So they said they knew Scott, right? And that was their vouch. So good luck with
I
that.
got the Scott card.
But
Not worth a lot,
hello.
but
Hi, Binks. Nice to meet you.
nice to meet you
tell
guys.
all
Can you
the
guys hear me? I've
listeners-
never done Streamlabs. Can you guys hear
You're
me?
good.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay. Yeah, I'm Bings. I used to stream a lot back in the day. And just kind of like Prime said, just kind of got bored and asked if because I've been yelling. I've been watching like the show like every week. I'm like I just yell at the screen, so I was like,
Yeah,
oh, why not? Yeah, I can just yell in real time. It's a lot easier.
You're still going to yell at the screen, by the way. Just
Yeah,
FYI.
but I haven't streamed in a while, so go easy on me. My yelling at people for no reason. I have to get used to that again. So
Who are you
I'm
normally
sure-
yelling at?
nobody. But that's the thing.
No, I
you
mean
have to
like at the. You said you're yelling at the screen. I'm sure it'd be at someone's points.
Oh, Ico all the time. No, I'm just kidding.
Really? That would be great.
The screen's not
but-
actually on. He's just yelling.
Thanks all. All right. Why don't we we usually do like a pre-topic thing, but I don't know, we could just like jump into it, see what happens. And then decide how far we'll go with this. So topic 1 here. In Louisiana, a former plantation has suffered extensive damage from a fire that broke out. The cause of the fire is under investigation. Okay. But because of the site's complex history, the cause may be arson. The site was a slavery plantation. It is now a resort where locals have proms and weddings. Many find the use of the land for a reception. Okay, more people are disappearing. All right,
What is happening?
I don't know.
There's never one.
The site was a slavery plantation. It's now a resort where locals have proms and weddings. Many find the use of the land for recreation to be disrespectful to the legions of people who suffered horrors there. The current, seemingly white, owner says that, quote, we need to move forward on a positive note, and we are not going to dwell on past racial injustice. This shows a marked difference from how other plantations utilize their land, oftentimes as museums that show the brutality of slavery's sins. Should sites of atrocities be used as resorts? What if the atrocity has deep historical ties to the society currently inhabiting it? When are we allowed to move forward? And if you were in charge of this land, what would you do with it? Okay, so hopefully the other people will make it back in here. Um,
I'll be back shortly.
yeah,
I'm
so
trying to figure out what's happening.
yeah. So everyone else, yes, there was this plantation type thing. The fire was very extensive fire damage, almost completely totaled like at least the main building. I'm not sure how large the property is, but I imagine it's actually pretty large because well, plantations are pretty large. Um, again, we don't know the cause. Like there was on the sources that I saw said like they suspect it's electrical, but like electrical in nature. But whether it was started on purpose or not, who knows? No one knows. Um, but this has been an ongoing fight, an ongoing fight. Like a lot of white people, really white people, use these sites for celebrations, right? If I remember correctly, and I should have looked this up before the panel, but if I remember correctly, Ryan Reynolds and his wife, Blake Lively, I think they used a plantation for their wedding. Um, and like it happens with like other celebrities. They're like, "Oh, this is be an amazing sight," and they think nothing of it, which is interesting in and of itself. But maybe that's not a problem, right? Maybe it's like we're making too big of a deal out of it. Certainly the current owner of this particular plantation doesn't think it's a big issue. So why should anyone else? We're going to go down the line and we'll hear your opening statements. I'll start with our friend Lactoid.
Yeah, so it looks like this particular plantation probably burned down because of an electrical shortage. At least that's what's stated. It's possible. Old buildings, electrical wiring, flammable materials, very possible. They could have just been some kind of accident. If it was arson, that's fucked. Arson should be prosecuted. Property damage is fucked. But on the broader question of should plantations be, I guess, mandated to be used a particular way? Obviously, no, right? If you own the property, you should be able to have weddings there if you want and have it be some kind of fun little antebellum South kind of theme park if that's really what you want to do. But then I guess there's a different question, which is should you? Right? You obviously have the right to do that, but is it in bad taste? Should you do it? And honestly, I feel like you should be able to use it for either or. If you want to turn it into some kind of like slavery memorial where you talk about it and spend a considerable amount of time talking about that, if that's important to you and if that's something that that the owner wants to do, and sure, that's great. But if it's these are beautiful pieces of property, and if they want to be used for other purposes, that should be fine too. Yeah, I'm concerned that we might be, and this is a very white opinion of me, I'm sure, but I'm concerned
I'm
that
sure.
the question would be: is the plan here for this to infinitely be a sort of like Holocaust-esque museum, but for slavery, for all these plantations going on forever? And if so, why specifically these when there's plenty of other historical buildings that were also either built directly through slavery or funded by the profits of slavery? And that goes not only for things in America, but also world monuments all over the place, because this was a fact of life for most of human history. And I feel like sometimes those monuments should stand for more than just slavery, although I'm fine acknowledging that slavery did happen.
Thank you so much. Lactoid's fine for acknowledging it. I appreciate you, Lactoid.
Just passes the threshold. It's like, oh, I can care just enough.
I appreciate you, friend. Let's go to Corey.
Well, I guess to continue on the white opinion train, yeah, I sort of go back and forth. I'll just say where my opinions currently lie, but I'm to change. Of so just in general, overall, in terms of let's say how I view land and let's say monuments or statues, generally speaking, I'm opposed to even just putting up statues of people of historical figures because I think just in general my heuristic is you shouldn't overly idolize anybody. And the same thing holds true when it comes to, let's say, a piece of land as well, where yes, I think it's important to recognize history and things and events that occurred on a certain piece of land. But just like at an individual level, there's recognizing the past and learning from the past, and then maybe clinging too much to the past. Now, where that actual line is, I think it's hard to say. Where I think it's important to, again, yeah, recognize historical events and obviously atrocities, but then just to sort of entrench it permanently, I can see some potential issues with that Lactoid sort of alluded to. And so it's like, does the owner of the land have a right to do whatever they want with it? I guess technically so, but also at the same time, like, yeah, I won't legislate this, but a certain amount of responsibility in using it, I mean, should be put. I would hope takes place. What that actually looks like, I'm not entirely sure. Just like with speech, of like, yes, I'm generally in favor of anybody saying absolutely anything, but I also hope at the same time they exercise their own personal responsibility in conducting their own speech. And I think again, I'm sort of extrapolating that to how people use their land as well. So all that to say is uh, recognizing a piece of land and historical events, good. But permanently entrenching it, maybe not so good. That's where my opinion lies currently. I'll leave it there for now.
Thank you, Ali.
Yeah. It's coming from the Arab perspective. The originators of the slave trade, the whites merely adopted and culturally appropriated our styles. So, uh, the the issue really is that honestly, according to like my own bias, there are regular houses that I drive by and I'm like, holy shit, that just looks like what would have been like a racist's home. It's like it's usually the wraparound porch with the pillars. I'm like that just seems the house just gives racist. Is it? No, it's just a house, right? This is my bias going towards it. So I understand that people feel a type of way when they see like a plantation or whatever it may be, old churches included. But at the end of the day, some of these are just kind of beautiful buildings, right? I'm getting married in an older church. It's not a church anymore. Someone bought it and now turned it into a venue hall. You could rent it out for weddings and so on and so forth. This topic actually reminded me of like a trend. It was a pretty like viral topic on Twitter. This guy Jalen Noble bought a house in I believe Mississippi or Alabama. I'm not sure. He gives a tour of the home and he shows like the back of the house and there's like a guest home in the back. He goes, "This is where going to be the guest home." And a lot of people, he's black, and a lot of people, black people, went on to said like, look, he bought a plantation home and he's calling the slave quarters a guest home. And it went crazy. They were like calling this guy out. How dare he do this? How like he's just like promoting these plantations. This isn't good. This is like a detrimental to Black history. Well, then he does like a genealogy on his home. Turns out it wasn't a slave home, and it was just like a house that was a guest home that was put in the back. And so it kind of does like tell me that like yeah, even though these places were like historically bad, right? The person who buys them, sometimes it wasn't bad, sometimes it just looks bad. And then other times like the people buy them and they revamp them and they turn them into something that is like good for the community or like beautiful, whatever it may be. And so long as you're not being antagonistic with it, right? If you're not advertising it as like the plantation slave prom home, like don't do that shit. I don't think that's in good taste. I think that's bad. But if you're gonna buy it and you're gonna revamp it and it's going to become a place that is, you're trying to attempt to change the history of it, right? Otherwise, like, what are we going to do unless we're going to knock down everything and rebuild? I mean, is the land itself tainted, right? Can you rebuild over it, or is it going to be like over the like history? Like, I don't know what you do, right? And so part of me does like preserving older homes. It does like I do like the preservation of like the churches and the homes and so on and so forth. I do see the problem when people are like in the UK when these churches are going abandoned and it's like the Muslims are buying out. They're not churches anymore, they're mosques. I do empathize with the people who are like, hey, we are losing what is meant to be ours due to a bad history or due to a lack of preservation. I empathize with that just a bit.
Okay. Let's go to our friend Gibbs.
Yeah, so I actually agree with about 99% of what Sociologic said. Although he did have a very Yankee take with the idea that a wraparound veranda is somehow racist. The man clearly has never lived in an area where there's just wide open spaces where
True.
you want to just go out there and look and that's pretty much a style of home
Yeah.
anywhere. That's
I
there's a
said it
lot
was
of
my
that.
bias.
I
I
know,
said it
yeah,
was
I
my
know it
bias. Yeah.
was. You did admit that. You did that. But I do agree with almost everything else he said. In fact, I think that the preservation aspect is good. I like that, and I think that the idea that these things can be used for some things that are like joyous occasions, is actually a good thing. Like I feel like at this point on Earth, if we really want to go back all whatever 13,000 years of human history or 300K or whatever, probably at this point everywhere on Earth has had a murder at some point. And I find this less distasteful than, say, I don't know, turning the Triple H Holmes murder castle into a horror house on Halloween, which they fucking do. They turn like actual murder houses into fucking horror houses all the time. Not horror houses, but horror houses all the time. They might turn them into horror houses. I don't know. I'd go to see that. Maybe they dress up as a ghost and we get our hanky panky on. I don't know. But I find this less distasteful because of things like no one bitched about when this happened. And now it's time to use the props. No one bitched about when we had the Alamo here, where a site where lots of people died, used as a spot in Miss Congeniality, and another time where they had the Miss was it America pageant, or when they actually had Miss America pageant take place on the front lawn. Oh, but hey, that's okay. That's okay. Cool. Or hey, when we had a telenovela, come over here to another one of my favorite places here in Texas. Let me just go back here, virtual background, to Goliad. The Massacre of Goliad. They had a telenovela do an episode here. Oh, hey, that was cool, but it's a massacre. Slavery's bad. I don't know how to get into what's worse. Hey, slavery or massacres, but they're both real bad. However, I think it's a good thing these sites are being remembered in perpetuity, whether they be through cinema or whatever. I mean, we could but I do think there is something to be said for whether the people should do something. I don't think we should have I don't know, the Auschwitz not the Auschwitz, the Alcatraz water park go down. I think that's probably a bad idea. Or maybe, I don't know, the Auschwitz bed and breakfast. It probably doesn't seem like a good idea either. These are probably not things we should be doing. Maybe we take umbrance there. So I see Prime's point in saying, hey, it might not be good to be having a bed and breakfast and resort at a location like I don't know, a plantation. However, I think this does come back to what Lactoid said in the beginning, which is, if these people own this property, they should be able to do whatever the high hell they want. And, if you have a nice piece of land like a plantation that's been upkept through the years, I mean, it almost seems like it's honoring the people who died there. If you use this wonderful land that they were forcibly upkept, using the upkept to show in perpetuity, hey, it's being used for weddings now, but here at the dark point in this history, the upkeeping wasn't done by grasskeepers paid thousands of dollars, much like the Democrats want today with the illegal immigrants being slaves. We had actual slaves upkeeping this area, and it's no surprise that Democrats today are using the same arguments as Big Cotton for slavery. But these are all teachable moments, and I think maybe some good can come from these kind of things. I think.
I think your use of the word prop is a little misleading, personally.
Yeah, I said prop-ish.
Yeah, I was excited.
Yeah, I might have more props. Don't worry.
My friend Gibbs is a force of nature, I think. So shout out to you. And finally, a new friend, Binks. Excuse me.
Yeah, it's weird that this is the panel that I got asked to go on because I'm from Louisiana and I've been to White Castle, Louisiana, many times. I will not on purpose, not because I wanted to. The plantation is basically the only thing. If you want to take a graduation photo or have a wedding reception, you can go to you can go to the plantation, or you can go to like the garden behind the McDonald's or something. Like there's not a lot else going on in that town, and I didn't know it was used for a like a private event rental space or whatever. But I mean, it doesn't surprise. I mean, that probably is like 40% of the town's like tax revenue, honestly, because it's so small. So the argument that I guess that from the way that I heard it is, should these historical sites that have been, the site of like all these horrible, evils and massacres be exploited by capitalism for decadence and, rich people to go and take photos and all that kind of stuff, which, I mean, I tend to agree with what pretty much everyone said, is that I think that it is in bad taste. There's a thing for bad form, but I mean, something that I think about when it comes to this is there's a lot of plantations in Louisiana. There's a ton. There's probably like more than in any other part of the country. most of them like operate from 11 to 2, like Thursdays and Fridays, and for a field trip, and then that's the only time anyone ever comes in them. No one ever goes to these except for like tourists, very old people, or students. This seemed to be a place that was pretty. I mean, it's honestly one of the most beautiful plantations in the state, and it was used all the time by like Prime said, Ryan Reynolds, all these celebrities. And I wanted to get trees built, and if I mean they kind of shut that off and make it just part of the historic district and just a regular museum. I mean, it's gonna go the way of every other museum in the state, which is that no one's ever going to see it except people who are are highly interested in seeing it for whatever reason. So I think we probably have to, I think there probably should be more of a social condemnation on kind of just like putting them like a McDonald's in a southern plantation or something silly like that. But at the same time, I'm not really sure what the line is. So
Yeah, like what does that town like do if it's just a bunch of plantations and there's like he was saying there's the plantation and there's the place behind the McDonald's, but if we're not going to use any of the other places for any other businesses or anything else, it's like does this town even have enough money to like break down and rebuild everything?
So I guess I'll go because funny, a bunch of light skins thought like this is fine. But so yeah, this is obviously like morally contemptible, like obviously. And I even made this like simple for you guys. Right? I gave you like an out here, right? That like with my questioning, that like okay, well, like should we like hold on to these spaces like forever, like memorialize them forever, or should it be at least or should the situation change if the society that's currently inhabiting it, right, like has a relation to that atrocity, right? So with Germany, yeah, Auschwitz shouldn't be a bed and breakfast, right? If one day the German society is replaced, right, and it's just like whatever society is there has no like connection to what happened before, probably because they genocided the Germans. Like, well, then maybe Auschwitz does it, or is Auschwitz in Poland? I forget. Wherever it's at. The point is that like, if like you have a direct connection to this, and just to say like, oh, I guess it's long enough, right? And especially when it's the people in power who say it's been long enough. Why can't we forget? Why shouldn't we just be allowed to move on? Yeah, very white opinion. I think that when we're dealing with this, I think back to an interesting question. He talked about like, hey, well, so much of our infrastructure, or old infrastructure, was built by the hands of slaves, or indentured servants, or like whatever the hell we were doing with the Native Americans, right? Like a lot of it is tainted in that way, right? Like i.e. Harvard, right? Go on Harvard's campus and hey, well, there's a lot of buildings built
The
by
White
slaves.
House.
The White House, of course, yeah. Um, and so I guess I would make the distinction specifically with plantations because they that's where they lived, worked, died, and tortured. Right? It's like a literal torture chamber where these plantations. Like we don't actually like really deal with that because of course we don't want to deal with this slavery's past, right? Again, people want to move past it as soon as possible. We've already dealt with it, so there's no point talking about it. But these were literal torture chambers, right? And rape chambers. That's what they did there. Torture and they raped them. So, like, would we say that for any other torture chamber, right? Specifically, when we're talking about Auschwitz, no, right? Apparently not. Well, I'm not sure if we've gotten unanimous approval on this panel on that. Maybe not. Okay, we'll see. But it seems like people can recognize, right, when it happens to some individuals, but when it's other bodies that are broken and bloodied and raped and tortured, that I guess it's okay that we can just move past it. No, these are a special sort of American evil. Those plantations, right? And they had like, oh my god, they had so many ways to torture their slaves, right? They were quite creative in the things that they would do to them, right? These are a special sort of evil, and so they should be memorialized. And if the problem is, well, it's in the hands of a private property owner, well, no problem. I can handle that. we nationalize all of them, right? We turn them to a national park, and we make them into museums, and then yeah, that solves that, right? And no, I'm not concerned about like the economics of a particular town. I mean, like I would like to revitalize any particular town through any sort of investments. Yeah, we can find other ways to invest into a town if we want to do that. Hell, even if we're going to nationalize them, we can even have some sort of direct stipend into the town's
You want that though?
economy,
You
right?
want them like memorialized and nationalized as like
Yeah.
like museums and historic? Like, do
Forever.
you think like no, do you like
For
who
as long
wants?
as the American society stands, like again, I gave
There
you
were a
an
lot of
offer.
yeah, there were a lot of people
You
who were
don't
just
wanna take it.
celebrating that it was burned down, right? Like on TikTok and stuff.
Yeah.
So yeah, I didn't know if that was the
All
idea
of
or
them?
not.
I'm saying,
Time?
would you prefer that? Would you prefer just like demolish and rebuild over? Like that's what I'm asking. Would you
Well,
prefer
No, I
that
don't
they
want to
are?
demolish and
I
rebuild
got an
over.
interesting
Definitely don't.
question here.
You don't
Oh,
want
sorry,
to?
sorry,
Wait, hold on.
sorry.
Yeah.
I should be more specific. Um, if you demolish it, right? Like
Mhm.
I guess I don't have any like me personally. Other people are gonna have different feelings about
Yeah.
this. But for me personally, I don't have a problem with actually necessarily destroying the buildings, right?
Mhm.
But what you put on top of that should be something to memorialize the people, right?
So
Like
you
Okay.
okay? So you
it's
always
not
want
like
to.
we're gonna demolish it and then we put a
What
resort
is
on
What
top
if
of
it
it.
was? What if it was like black? Wait, I just what if it was like black people who bought it and turned it into like a wedding home or whatever it was? Is that also or like is your
I don't care
problem
if
that
it's
it's
black
like
people.
I'm sorry.
I don't care if black capitalists decide to do what
So
things that
okay,
white people do.
okay. So
Yeah.
you like your end goal would be to memorialize the land and nationalize the
Let
land
me
as like for tribute. I just wanted like yeah.
so let me ask
Okay.
this then. All right, where is the line? And when I mean the line as
I
all right, so okay,
made
hold on.
mine.
Let me just explain what I mean by that, right?
Sure.
So let's just take this plantation, right? They got new owners, right? I guess, right? It's not the owners of that or the family that had the plantation way back in the
Yep,
day,
yep.
right?
Yeah, it's a
Okay,
lawyer.
you're right. Okay, so this guy comes in, makes it whatever he did, and now it's burned down. Now, okay, that's bad because I get like, okay, it's not like the U.S. government came in just to clarify this and was like, okay, we're owning these slaves, we're doing this here. It was a family that lived there and owned the slaves, right? We all on board with that so far.
That live
Yeah,
there.
right. Okay.
I mean, I
The
guess. Yeah.
yeah, right.
Mm.
I'm assuming. I'm making an
Yeah, let's
assumption.
assume because I don't
Yeah,
know the exact history of the land. Sure.
we could probably
Yeah.
make that assumption. I guess that
Yeah. Sure.
it
Sure.
was
Sure.
a family that owned a plantation, and and they had other slaves. Okay, what is the fundamental difference between that and the Texas Chainsaw Massacre house in Granger, Texas? So this guy is this is a family of cannibals, basically, or whatever. I guess if we've seen the movies,
Was that
allegedly.
real?
I mean, yeah, the Texas Chainsaw Massacre is a real
Oh,
thing.
I don't
Yes,
know.
It's
and
based off a
so
real story. It's very embellished, but there was actually
yeah,
like a
yeah. So
Okay.
and they killed people, yada 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 yada. Now people got murdered. I don't know if they got raped, but they got murdered, skinned alive, killed, terrible shit, tortured. Right now,
Okay.
a private person owns this house. It's not a museum. It's not a bed and breakfast. However, let's just hypothetically say they did make it a wedding venue or whatever, because
Let's just
it's
say
out.
Gibbs buys the
Yeah,
house.
yeah.
Yes.
I buy the house, and now we're making the
Yes.
Leatherface wedding, whatever. Now, I'm sure that I would do well because there are a lot of fucking emo goth girls that love murder places, and they would definitely
Yeah.
come to this Texas
Big
Chainsaw
tourist
Massacre
thing. Yeah.
house. Yeah,
Mhm.
especially when it's like an old Victorian or Southern Texas style veranda, like style house. They got all the bullshit, and there's a cotton field behind it. They're gonna look, they're gonna go, wow, this looks pretty, and we can be scary and emo. Yeah, so I'm sure it would sell well. Is there a fundamental difference in your mind between a private slave owner like a plantation and a family of serial killers that used to own this and somebody else comes and buys and we turn that into a bed and breakfast or
Um.
resort or
I
whatever?
yeah. So I see where you're going with this, right? Like on any site of any mass tragedy, uh like should that all be treated the same? Well, I would say that um to like on the most basic level, right? Like the sites of slavery were done like through state mandate or state cooperation, right? There were
Don't
laws,
just
like
get
it was
shot.
within our
I heard that. What the fuck
right.
is
Yeah, I'm sorry, like they're doing fireworks, and
Oh,
I have one neighbor, right? I have one neighbor who like in the fucking summer, like they like play loud music like in like throughout the day, sometimes into the night, right? Unlikely like they're not doing it like right now, but
my
like
neighbors just
it's a
asked me if
thing.
I wanted a beer, so I don't know.
And then
For the
it
troops.
and I have to like close the window, but then my room gets like really fucking hot, right? So I
Mm.
open the window. Now they're doing fireworks, so I'm sorry. Any
Oh,
case,
you can.
this was like by this was with the cooperation of the United States government, like defended by the United States government, a person's right to own slaves. So I think it's tied to society in the way that like random crime isn't, right? So like that on the rip, like this is like tied to our society. We fought a war over it, right? We did it for centuries. So like it seems different off the bat, but also, so I'll start there. But like also, I don't think I even have to make that distinction, right? I think that all I have to say is, well, this is the type of sites that I want to memorialize. Other people can decide if they want to memorialize other sites as well, right? And I'm open to hearing about them. But like that's not really my concern, right? My concern is these plantations. Like I make it, and I've already made a clear delineation between them and other sites of tragedy. So
Yeah, so you're saying though for your first point, I get the second point. Yeah, I mean you can, that makes sense. But I mean the first one, you're basically saying that because the United States government, like tangentially or directly in your mind,
directly, not tangentially,
yeah,
directly. Yeah.
like sanctioned slavery as a concept,
Mhm.
then that because of that, it's different than a different. Okay, that's what I just wanted to see. Okay.
Yeah. Mhm.
Is your argument that it's being used at all, or that it's being used as a private like business?
Private business. He would want it memorialized or nationalized.
Yeah, like it has to be a museum.
Yeah.
I don't. So the only reason why I said like nationalize it was in response to my friend Lactoid, right? It says like, well, there's a private landowner; they should be able to do what he wants as a fucking libertarian.
Yeah.
But you'd
like
have to
that.
pay.
I mean,
for
there's one
private
good
land.
example. Like there's like the most famous plantation in Louisiana is the Myrtles plantation. Like everyone in Louisiana knows about it. It's like everyone's been there once because there's like it's like the same story, like lots of slaves died there, but there's ghosts. That's the thing, like there's ghosts. So like all these ghost hunter TV shows go to the fucking Myrtles plantation at 2 a.m. and do the infrared camera, and and it's like this huge thing, and and they're the most famous plantation in America. But they are a I don't know if they're a national site, but they're like a museum. They do like the tours, but but they're also capitalizing off of the story in a way that probably would be disrespectful. I don't know if you would say that's disrespectful or not, but I'm just curious what you think about that.
I guess I'm not right this second. I'm not about putting a lot of thought into it. Like going to say these are the exact lines as to like what, like so, like let's say like it is a museum or it is some like a memorialized place, right? Remember, it's not actually an active museum, but like it's memorialized or something, right? It's a
Yeah.
protected piece of land, right? I don't know like the exact line in which where something becomes necessarily extremely disrespectful. I know there's something that's over that line, right? Like
Well, I
we
mean,
can't
and Nottoway says it's a they say they have a museum too. I mean, I saw some people saying that it's like a super shitty, like they have one little line that slaves were here or something in their little museum room or
yeah.
something.
From what I was reading from others, like you'll like learn nothing, right? Basically, it's just like it's like a fig leaf they're hiding behind.
With the
My
ghost
understanding.
thing
I
though,
haven't
wouldn't that
been
like
there.
bring awareness to this? Like though, I feel like with the ghost hunters one, like a lot of the channels that do it are like what Discovery and they're like History Channel
Discovery.
and like yeah. I know they've had the ghost hunters thing. Like it used to be like a early morning Saturday show they had, but like they would have the ghost hunters, right? And they'll like come and be like, okay, let's give the history of this place. And now we're gonna look for ghosts, right? So it like brings it to, and they usually have like a tour guide, like or like somebody that's like a higher up in the like that place. I think for the Myrtles one, where they'll like like sit there and be with the ghost hunters, like, oh, that's the whatever room, and like that's where you see X Y Z, and
Yeah.
and like that, and so that like brings more attention to like I mean in some of the crime I don't know about the Myrtles but some of the places they interview because I've seen a couple of the plantation ghost hunter ones they'll be like this is the hanging tree and this is a lot of stuff and like this is terrible people died horrible ways here and they'll go into this shit and like this is another one we have Moaning Myrtle over here they think she was like
Yeah.
essayed
The
and then they
more you
talk about it and
the
it's
more
like
you talk about
pays
this, the
attention
more I
to
hate
it.
it.
Well, I
Like the
mean,
more I hate it.
you say that, but don't you want like at some aspect to go, hey, this is bringing attention to what happened here. Yes, maybe the ghost thing is kind of sus. Like, if I'm a ghost, I wouldn't want somebody walking up in my home either. But like, if you're like sitting here going, "Hey, let's get some attention on this," and you like it's memorialized, more people than ever are going to become aware of it because of a ghost hunter show or something. It's like a special
I
event kind of thing.
mean, it may
It
be,
seems like a
but like
mockery, though.
yeah, it
It
seems
does seem
more of
like
a
it does have
mockery,
hunting,
and
like you're hunting old, like the ghosts of slaves, right? You're still trying to find them. You're still trying to capture them on video and exploit them in one way or another. It seems like
If
a
you're
little
one of
bit
these
like
people on
What
these
if they're
like
taking their story down? They're taking their story. They're like interviewing like the ghost, you know?
if you're one of these people on
They
these museum
try.
boards,
They
like
try.
who run a plantation, like you're looking at them, and you're like, God damn, I wish we could get like the traffic that the Myrtles get. Like all these plantations are looking for ways to like. This is like part of the game. You just have to find ways to differentiate yourselves among all the
well,
other
that's Prime's
plantations.
point, right? Is that like these plantations are owned by people who are still
Even
trying to
no, but
exploit them for
even if it's
whatever they're worth,
even if it's
and
public,
like
even if it's like a historic district, like there's a board and they like they're trying to up the traffic and stuff like that, you know.
yeah,
I mean, yeah, they probably shouldn't be doing ghost shows or whatever, but I mean,
he's saying he doesn't
that is,
care about like the
yeah,
necessity to upkeep by using like capitalism. If like you're still
they should
exploiting the
be
land
shut
without
forever
providing like
and
no, I
actual
didn't say you
benefit.
shut forever. Like I said, the opposite.
well, yeah,
I said, like you could,
they'll be open 2 days a week, and yeah,
or they
it'll
can
be
be
great.
open many days a
Well,
week,
okay. So what about
all
like?
days a week. I don't care about that.
Well,
Well, no one
Yeah.
do you
shows
have
up. That's the
do
thing.
you
No
have
one
a
goes.
problem with
That's
like?
fine.
Well, okay. So
It's
okay,
not a
let's
concern
go
of
take a
mine.
different thing, Prime. Do you have a problem with? I brought
Well,
this one up. Do you have a problem with Miss America on this like literal site where the soldiers were killed from the Alamo after the battle? And
No, the
like, do you have
Alamo
a
was
problem
to
with?
like defend slavery, right? Like it was like
No, what?
like the
Defend
whole Texas
slavery.
Rebellion was like for like defending their
You're
rights
telling me
to
the
have
Apaches that died at the
uh
Alamo, the other ones they were defending slavery
slaves.
too.
No, but
The
I mean
Mexicans that
specifically.
died, they died. Like all the people at the Alamo
No,
died.
well, hold on. To be clear,
This is just fake news.
the
What
way
you're
the
doing.
U.S. hold on, the way the U.S. internalizes it is the last stand of patriots there, right, against the savages.
Texian Patriots,
Um,
yeah, a lot of
yeah,
Hispanic people
and they
died there.
don't
Yeah.
deal with the actual fact that there was to support Texas's
How many slave
ability
owners died at
to.
the Alamo? Do
One
you
second,
know?
hold on. I don't. None of that matters because it doesn't validate my point, right? I have no idea. It doesn't. It makes no difference.
Well,
The
it's
point
just not
is
very
that
many, if any.
it doesn't. It literally good thing, fine, because it has nothing to do with my point. The point is that one, it was to defend the right to slavery. So I don't think it's anything I would care about protecting in particular. But beyond that, right? If other people want to make that case, right? If you want to make the case, if this is important to you, right? Hey, we got to um uh, uh treat the Alamo with the reverence it deserves. Well, then yeah, you should have it nationalized too. I support your right to lobby for that.
Can I ask a question? And for
It is nationalized. That's the problem.
real quick, Gibbs. I mean, just so you know,
Okay.
the Native Americans prior to the Civil War were, in many cases, large slave owners. There's a reason why so many Native tribes sided with the Confederacy during the Civil War, and it's because it was to protect their interests, their economic interests as well. My question for you, Prime, is: do you think that there's any kind of culture worth salvaging of the antebellum South unrelated to slavery? Like, do you think that if you are a Southerner and you're thinking about the history of your community and of America in your location from the beginning of the country, there's anything there that's worth, taking a look at and saying, this is something that we should be able to celebrate, something that we should be able to take a look at and experience, unrelated to slavery. We can have some acknowledgement here. We're not saying getting rid of all of it. We can have some acknowledgement, but turning every single plantation house into this into so what you've said, it tends like a torture museum. I mean, does that not, I guess, completely eliminate some of the non-slavery related antebellum South culture?
Sure. So I'm willing to for let's say that Prime was the decider, okay, right? I am not, but let's say that I was, right? I'd be willing to for people to make a case, right? Like here is these traditions or something, right? Here is this way of life, this facet of the way they lived, and let's talk about that and let's see if we can like bring this into the modern era and celebrate that guilt free, right? I'd be willing to listen to it case by case, but just from my understanding of the South, right, is that nothing was untouched by slavery. like almost nothing.
Well,
That like
nothing can
like
be prime.
we
That's not my point, though, right? Like for Spartan culture, for example, was entirely fundamentally based upon slavery, but like the Spartans, like the idea of the Spartans and the culture on the Spartans is actually relatively unrelated to slavery. When most people think about the Spartans, they don't think about slavery, despite the fact that entire culture was born specifically out of the need to enslave the Helots. That's why they were warriors, specifically to like oppress people. There's no
so
other
I
explanation for it.
so I wasn't aware of that, but that sounds like the history was whitewashed, and I wouldn't want that to happen, right? I don't want the antebellum stuff to one day, right,
Well,
where people can think. Hold on, let me answer this question. I wouldn't want there to be a day for people to look back on it and say, with honesty in their heart, right, not trying to deny it the way some white people do, but with honestly think, oh, this had nothing to do with slavery. I went forever tied with this tragedy, right? And if that was the case for the Spartans, I don't know. This is the first I'm hearing about that, right? Then I think it's a tragedy that we don't acknowledge that.
So you
well,
can,
hold on, Mike. Hold on, Mike.
let me wrap up my point
I
real
just want
quick.
to engage what you said. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Yeah.
I want
So
to engage what you said.
sure, specifically with the Spartans, like I understand what you're saying, and it's true. You can look into it. I mean, the fundamental basis of Spartan
I'll,
society was
I'll take your
enslavement.
word for it.
Now, but that doesn't negate the impressive bravery at the Battle of Thermopylae, right? Or that doesn't negate like the impressive skill that the Spartans had displayed at the time in their various conflicts and their various wars, and that's sort of like remembering what the people there were capable of doing. Um, and I think that there is room there. Sure, we can acknowledge the Helots and the horrible life I'm sure they lived, but at the same time recognize other cultural aspects of the communities that live there, because this is the case for every single community. I mean, you can't even talk about Arabian culture without it being fundamentally underpinned by slavery. Does that mean we ignore all the incredible achievements of the
No,
Arabs
no,
and
hold
the
on.
science? Well, no, all of mathematics that the Arabs invented, all of
I
that
no
was
no
based
guy,
upon slave labor,
my
all of
guy,
it.
my guy. Yeah, Mohan, my guy. Right, like we can acknowledge all these things, right? Like we can acknowledge that um, uh, these things are tied, right? Like we can
Mhm.
just say that all these things are tied. Like I think it's important to understand like the totality of history and not whitewash these things. We can say all these things are stained by these various atrocities, right? And like have a more colorful, more complex, more nuanced view of history. So we can do that with all. And like I said, we can uh, look at these things individually and see like are there cases as to actually, you know what? I'm gonna leave it there because I don't know
But that's
exactly.
my point. My point is that, like, when I asked you, was there cultural elements that are worth salvaging of the antebellum South? You said it's all stained by slavery. But again, if we're going off that basis, so is the cultural practices of most cultures around the world to some extent. I'm saying that I think there is aspects of antebellum South that are worth salvaging, and I think turning every single plantation into this sort of like remembrance memorial, not only would it be extraordinarily expensive because you'd have to eminent domain every single one of these plantations, but also it seems like this massive overkill, right? Like every single plantation, really? We can't have like a couple be wedding venues. We can't have a couple be celebrating other elements of
No,
antebellum South
ew.
other than just like
We can't have a couple torture chambers used for
see.
birthday parties. No,
Well,
actually, no. No, hold on. I gotta respond to this. I'm gonna get to you, Gibbs, in a second, right? I gotta respond to this. No, so again, I don't know about those other cultures, right? I don't know to the extent that they are tied into, these horrible practices. I have no idea, right? Like we can bring in a historian and they can regale us, right? And then we can decide from there. What I know about is the antebellum himself, right? I don't have to make arguments for all these other places, right? That you're of no concern to me, right? What's concerned to me right now is American society, right? And with the confines of American society, the antebellum South, right? Or I'm not sure if we're using that right. Is antebellum before the war or after or post-war?
Antebellum means before conflict, so
Before the
before the
war.
war.
Before conflict. Thank you. Oh well, antebellum then. Antebellum South is that like it wasn't simply an industry that happened, right? Like I don't know where you guys all live, right? But you might have a big industry in your state, let's say like oil refining, right? But then you can live in the state and like not actually touch that, right? You can it could be your biggest employer, right? But it like doesn't like directly influence your life. But the way slavery was, like, no, it wasn't like the entire communities were involved with the managing of all these people, right? Especially if they ran away, if they escaped. And everyone was involved in some way. It was the biggest driver of everything. Of the politics, right, of the economy, of industry, right, all of it was tied into slavery. It was how, like, for instance, white women, it was their only way to have any sort of economic independence was to either buy or like inherit slaves, right, and then use them for something, right. That was their key. Everyone was involved with this. So,
This is also
there
true
is no
for this is
separating
also
that.
true
And
for
then,
Sparta.
and then, and
Should
then,
the movie
again,
300
I don't,
should
again, I
the
don't
movie
know.
should the movie
Again, I don't
300 have
know.
been made?
Well,
Should
I
should
think
the whole thing have just been like
The Persians
like
have
a
thoughts on this,
no, no,
right? So
shouldn't
I'll
no,
leave
no,
it to
no,
the
not the
Persians.
Persians. The
Hold on, let
Persians
me
weren't the
say it. I'm going to say
slaves.
one last thing, right? But
Persians still
and this
on it.
continued past into like the Jim Crow South. The Jim Crow South, there weren't slaves. They were indentured servants, but they weren't slaves. But everyone was involved in enforcing those laws, right? Even if you're an usher, right? Usher in a movie theater. Well, black person sits in a white section. Well, then you got to do something about that. You have to enforce these laws. Everyone was involved, and so there is no separation, right? I don't have to make an argument for the fucking Spartans. I don't know shit about the Spartans, right? And maybe I should educate myself, but it sounds like it's been whitewashed already. And I don't want that to happen.
Well, here's
Well-
the frustration I'm having is like the Spartans are a great example here of my point, and I understand you, but you're just sort of like hand waving it because you don't know about the history of the Spartans. But the reason why it's important to point out is like if we were taking your logic, the movie 300 shouldn't have been made. It should have just been a movie
Okay,
like
that's
talking
fine.
about how bad the Helots had it. And yeah,
Sure.
there could be a movie made that way. But again, there's other elements of Spartan culture that I think are worth celebrating, and I think that's also true
Sure.
for the
Why don't we
South.
celebrate the bravery of the Confederates? I mean, they fought bravely on the battlefield. Why don't we celebrate that?
Well,
there
hold
are
on.
there are certain battles
There are white
absolutely that
people
could
who
be
do that.
there-
There are white
absolutely.
people who definitely do that. Yeah, I know.
Yeah, I'll act to it. There's actually a better example of what you're talking about right here, right? And this is why I brought the Alamo up. It actually is state owned, right? And the reason what's interesting is because what Prime's doing is exactly what he's accusing you of doing with the Spartans of whitewashing it. I guess we could say he's blackwashing the history of Texas now, because Texas literally had the least slaves of any of the states. It was a minor reason, if at all, a reason for the
Or the
Texas
major
Revolution.
reason.
Oh, it's not. It's actually not. It is actually what I'm
major
talking
reason.
about. The blackwashing. We've gone back and revised history to put this onto the Texans and say, hey, this is a big thing. Because one, if you know anything about ranching and you know anything about cattle drives, you know slavery was not conducive to that, and we only had a few minor tobacco farms, right? As compared to the rest of the South, we're up to like 45% of people in the South had slaves. And compared to Texas, it's between estimates are about 10 to 15% to 20%, which is drastically lower. Hold on. Yeah, than any other state in the Confederacy. And so when you're sitting here going and saying these things, it's almost like slavery was already dying out in Texas, and you're trying to pigeonhole this because Texas fought a war over something you don't care about, which is guns. Hold on, I'm almost done.
Okay.
And then when you're sitting here, you advocated for making these places museums, nationalizing it. Okay, cool. Which is something hey, that sounds fine. That sounds good on the surface. But then what happens when that same nationalized interest, like the Alamo, turns around and goes, hey, we're going to have a movie like Miss Congeniality, which is a fucking comedy, and they're going to do
He's
it
saying
on
if it
the
matters to you,
Hold
then
on. I
yeah.
understand the matters to you point, but I want to like illustrate something. I just want you to imagine, hey, you're anti-slavery. Did you know that one of the people, William B. Travis, he did have a slave? Yeah, he did. You know what happened to that slave at the Alamo? He was kneeled down and shot in front of other members of the survivors. He was shot because he was associated with literature. Because Santa Anna didn't care about slavery. He was just a tyrant, right? So now you're sitting here going, because this Texan thing, tangentially related to slavery in some way in Prime's mind, we should just have comedy shows, movies filmed on the site of a massacre.
First of all,
hold on, because the state nationalized it and said it's fine, and then you're gonna go ahead and say, we're gonna blackwash this and say, well, poo-poo, Texans were all evil.
That would be the state's
slaves.
fault, not Prime's.
Yeah, and
that's
so
his point.
but hold on. No, that is his fault because he's arguing we should nationalize these other places. Okay, so what's the solution then when the state starts going, hey, let's have like comedy shows on the fucking grounds of this. Let's have
then we can protest. Then we can protest that. Okay.
Protest.
Yeah, that's
Yeah, obviously, hold on.
If the state solves what?
Wait,
What does that
hold on.
solve?
If the state doesn't do
We
what
should
I
just go
want,
burn
what
down
do
the
you
movie
think my
trailers? Is that
what?
what you're
Hold on,
saying?
no.
Like
What
the
do you
movie
think? What do you
this?
think I do when the state doesn't do what I want? Right?
Well, I
I
mean,
protested.
I don't know. It seems
I
like they burned down
protested.
the
Yeah.
plantation. Are we
lobbied
gonna burn
I
down the movie
lobbied to
trailer?
change the laws, right? So that's how I respond, right? Rather than through violence. That's how I interact with the state. So I'm leaving it at that, right? Like it's weird. So anyway, just to be clear, I put it into a well, it's not ChatGPT, it's Perplexity, but it uses a bunch of different AIs, right? I just put this the question: was slavery a major reason for Texas seceding from Mexico?
That's
Slavery
it is.
was a major reason for Texas seceding from Mexico. When Mexico officially abolished
And we
slavery,
know the AI. We know AIs are
sure,
fed by
sure.
bias.
And I love
It's
to
just like
and I love
we
to
know
fact
this.
check this, and we can fact check this later on. But I'm just gonna
Just
I'm
ask
gonna read
Grok,
I'm gonna read this. I'm gonna read this, right?
Grok's
Slavery
this
was
now too,
hold on, excuse me. I'm gonna read this. Slavery was a major reason for Texas seceding from Mexico. When Mexico officially abolished slavery in 1829, many Anglo-American settlers in Texas who had bought enslaved people with them to develop cotton plantations were deeply opposed to this policy. The desire to maintain and protect the institution of chattel slavery became a significant cause of tension and was a
Why did
major
Santa
factor
Anna kill the
motivating the
slaves?
push for independence from Mexico. Mexican
So then why did Santa
authorities.
Anna
Well,
kill the
hey,
slaves?
I am going to finish this. I'm going to
Okay,
finish
cool.
this.
Answer that question when you're done.
Well, hold on. Excuse me. I'm going to finish it. Shut up.
Okay.
I'm going to finish this. Thank
Answer
you.
my question.
I'm not going to answer. I don't even hear your question. I'm not going to answer it until I finish it.
Why did Santa Anna kill the slaves?
Hold on. I'm going to have to meet you because I'm going to finish this.
Okay.
So do I need to meet you or can I just finish this?
I'm done. I just want you to answer the question when you're done.
Okay. All right. So I'm just going to meet you. All right. Great. Mexican authorities attempted to enforce the abolition of slavery and restrict further Anglo-American immigration, which further inflamed settler resentment. By the mid-1830s, Texas was developed into a slaveholding region within Mexico, and many settlers feared the loss of their enslaved labor force if Mexican laws were enforced. This anxiety was a core grievance among the Anglo settlers and contributed directly to the revolutionary movement. While other factors such as disputes over immigration, economic interests, and the centralization of power under Santa Anna also played important roles, the protection of slavery was a central and explicit concern for many Texan revolutionaries. After independence, the new Republic of Texas quickly legalized and protected slavery in its constitution, underscoring its importance to the secessionist cause. There we go. Done, right?
Prime,
and
you
so
have
I'd
us all
love to.
muted on your stream, by the way. All of us are muted for some reason. You might want to fix that. Yep.
All right. That's fine. Is that the entire time? Let's hope not.
Let's go from the top.
Let's go from the top. But go ahead.
No, they heard you.
Oh.
They just couldn't hear any of us.
Yeah, I know, but yeah, I don't know.
The whole time?
Like, I wish someone had.
I think he's still muted. Prime.
Yeah. Hold on 1 second. I'm dealing with this. Was this? I'm asking. Was this the problem from the beginning? We didn't hear the question
That,
either.
I don't know.
We're about. Oh, so for about 3 minutes, they were saying, okay, all right. So I don't know what just happened.
Now I can't hear you.
Can't hear me.
Oh, you're back. You're back.
There we go.
All right. Okay. No, there you go. All right. So it says only hear me for 3 minutes. 3 minutes. Okay, great. So it looks like we're back. Everyone talk. Can you guys hear the other people?
Yo.
Put in chat.
Sibilance.
Put in chat. Can you hear?
They can't hear. They can't hear Gibbs for some reason, though. I don't know.
Oh, for
we
some
can't
fucking
hear
reason.
Gibbs.
I'm gonna unmute Gibbs in a second. But testing, guys. Like, can you hear? Oh my god, they're not typing. Can you hear? You can hear now. We can hear now. Okay, great. All right. Go ahead, Corey.
So just to maybe understand your position better, Prime, it's like so. You want these all the plantations essentially sort of memorialized or sort of turned into either like a museum or memorial, and like as long as the United States exists as a state, or then like those pieces of land are like off. Well, can't touch them. Is that more or less your position?
More or less. I mean, we can do stuff with them, but like.
Well, yeah, but like but yeah, you can't like just
Something in
build an
respectful
office
manner.
building on top of them.
Yeah.
Okay. So then, hypothetically, although it's probably not going to happen given what Trump is doing, but if the U.S. Lasts for like 300, 400 years, okay, like that site will not change, or will pretty much the memory of what took place there will always be at that site. That is what you would desire, right?
Yeah, we got plenty of space in the U.S. We're not going to run out of spaces to do other things, so we can use these
Uh,
spaces for
sure.
memorialization.
That's so I'm curious if this like overlaps with so I understand sort of the concept of sacred ground and all that stuff. So I don't know if this is, let's say, either related, either tangentially or not at all. But I'm curious, like, how do you view, let's say, at some point on a long enough timeline, okay, with all of the cemetery land that we have, we're going to run out of pretty much room for cemeteries. Okay, is there
Okay.
going to be a point that's permissible to just like you know dig up all the cemetery land and just like all the bodies are now gone because we just have run out of space. Is that permissible to you?
Well, actually, cemetery politics are pretty interesting because they are my understanding of the current laws. I'm not sure what it's like in Canada. And this is my understanding. I'm not an expert, so please don't bite my head off, Lactoid. You know, Lactoid, Prime doesn't know the laws. Okay, fuck you.
Well, Life is Canadian too, so he wouldn't know.
But
Fuck
my
you,
understanding
Lactoid,
is that
yeah.
they have like fucking Lactoid. Yeah, I think my understanding is that like there's like 99 years is like basically like your ownership of that plot of land, and they actually do cycle them out at some point in time. And I think that we actually should be using our land more conservatively, right? So like, I hate Israeli society, right? Just like outright can't stand it. But something they do interesting is that like my understanding is that they have like these like cemeteries that go straight down. That like they have like basically like an underground parking lot type thing for like cemeteries. That's like a more inefficient use of space. And in terms of like what like within an urban environment, what we should do, maybe we should do something like that, like actually just keep digging down, right? And then like you know then we won't have to move them. But it's also we have to consider, right? Like how many generations will live and exist and care about like the person buried in this plot of land, right? Like how long are you going to
I've seen
hold
plots
that
from
for?
like 1848.
Yeah, well, but it also depends on where it's at, right? If it's in some rural place, then it's not going to matter in that same way. So yeah, I don't know.
Fair
But
enough.
again, like cemeteries aren't necessarily the sites. They
I
could
know of
be, right?
horrific. Yeah, these horrific. I
Yeah, yeah.
understand. That's why I said tangentially related or not related at all. I understand the distinction that you are making in terms of these sites
Yeah.
of torture and human horrors and all that stuff. But yeah, I think there will come a point that we have to grapple with like, do we just start digging up dead bodies or bodies
Mhm.
in cemeteries and just like to make new space for land? That's all.
So let's go to
Um,
Ali and then Gibbs, who's been waiting not so
is
patiently.
is your it's gonna be a little bit okay? Is your memorialization and nationalization of like, is it limited to plantations? Is it limited to like historic sites where like it was just black torture? Because like if you wanted like, how far does it go back? Are we gonna go like Native American land? Or like, what about living quarters, whole cities that were, because you were saying like whole cities were participating in laws, right? The Jim Crow South, right? That like the entire town was participating in like social torture, right? And then I'm being like for real. There was a lot. Like like is it just plantations? Is it old businesses? Is it old like blocks? Is it like parts of land? Is it homes that you don't want like
I think I already drew this distinction specifically, right? Like lived, worked,
you know,
and
I might have
died
missed.
on those lands, right? They were
Mhm.
physical torture
Yeah.
and sexual violence, um,
Well, that
literally
happened in the
breeding
towns
them.
too, right? Like in the Jim Crow South, like there was torture.
Well, I
There
mean,
was
oh yeah,
They also
hanging
so
from
there's
worked and
trees.
died off the plantations as well, like in different.
That's what I'm. They were
yeah,
like hanging
yeah,
from
but
trees
I'm
and so
saying
forth.
that
Like
these
yeah.
plantations stand as a monument to like well, in a monument as to what I want them to be, but also like within our cultural imagination, right? For the people who haven't tried to excise this,
Mhm.
we understand that this is tied, right? Specifically, the plantations are a symbol of this system, right? The whole system was based around these, right? Without the plantation system, then most of the rest, not all of it, but most of the rest falls apart, right? This was the center of that industry, so it makes sense that when we're talking about this specifically, that would be could be the delineation. Like I'm not saying that other horrible things hasn't happened in the United States, right? But like I'm saying,
Mhm.
like, you want a delineation? My delineation is just plantations, right? Like if you're looking for
Yeah.
a line, I can just make the line
Yeah,
plantations
I
and
was
you
just
need more
wondering if
lines.
that like if your line went past plantations and maybe went to like towns, block areas, like certain
It
groups
could
of
be.
homes.
So it
Like
could be, right? So there are other massacres, right? Like there has been lots of massacres in the United States, right? A lot of them have been white violence against black individuals. Like there's been a lot of race riots. here, right? A group of white
Mhm.
people, they get pissed off. They think a black kid whistled at a white woman, and now that's an excuse because
Yeah,
racial
like
tensions
that.
have been bubbling up to now wipe out these individuals, right? Like to go through a massacre of the black individuals there. That's happened. We should find ways to memorialize those places as well. There's a bunch of there's a lot. So many of them are forgotten, right? People now know about the Tulsa Race Massacre because of Watchmen, honestly. But
Mhm.
because of that, but and that's a good example of a media that actually tried to deal with that in a respectful manner, right? Like directly dealing with the issue. So yeah, we can find all kinds of creative ways to memorialize them. But I'm saying specific plantations, we lock them down. In terms of Native Americans, last thing I'll say, Native Americans, I'm sure there are places where Native Americans are massacred, right? A whole village is wiped out or whatever. They might
All of
want
America,
to
right?
well, yeah. Well, it's not, but I mean, the specific sites, right?
Yeah.
Specific sites. There are places where these happen that maybe they want to might more memorialize. I'm in support of that as well.
Yeah, I was just
Um,
gonna say, like, to get Gibbs, like, to his point earlier, he's saying if you care so much about the Alamo, then it should be your concern. Like, you should take it upon yourself to like protest against that. Prime doesn't necessarily care. Like, he's saying like if like you want it nationalized, you don't want it be. You think it's disrespectful, then you should protest for it. If you don't think it's disrespectful, then it's like it doesn't really work against his argument that he thinks that these other plantations should be memorialized.
Would Gibbs support turning the Alamo into a Bucky's? The only
Uh,
question I care about.
Absolutely fucking not. But
Okay, okay.
Wait,
on a real,
Gibbs, do you care that it was used in miscongeniality? Like, is that something that you think is worth protest?
I do care, and I want to. The reason I bring this
So
up,
then you
one,
agree with Prime?
hold on. No, well, kind of, but no. At the same time, yes and no, right? And I just want to
Oh,
point out the flaw that Prime is presenting. One, what was that AI you used, Prime?
sure. I
perplexity.
use so yeah,
Perplexity. Yeah.
perplexity. It's just so you understand, because I feel like you're going to argue with this particular AI. It's not one AI. Perplexity basically sends your question to one of the major AIs, right? Whichever it thinks is the best one to handle it, right? So because I'm using the free version, it doesn't actually tell me which one it sent it to, right? And I don't get a chance to pick, but it sends it out to it decides on itself which one is the best one. So I actually don't know which one actually answered. So there you go.
Yeah, and generally, when we think AI answering questions, AI, scans the internet and finds a bunch of articles and it summarizes
Sure.
them based off, right? Yeah, well, this is actually it should be called, what was it, perplexity, whatever. It doesn't matter. It should be called parody because this is actually just a prime example of liberal and leftist invasion in academia where they just rewrite history, or in this case, I will use the term blackwash it to try and do these things. If Santa Anna was this great abolitionist, like Prime is trying to say, because Mexico outlawed him, then he might not have slaughtered every fucking slave he came across in Texas, which is what he did. He didn't emancipate him; he killed him. That's what he did. That's what he did all throughout. One of his generals emancipated some, and he scolded him. This is historical. It was General Uria. It's a whole thing. Now, what's
Try
interesting
fine.
about this?
I thought Santa. Maybe my understanding is incorrect. I thought Santa Ana was a place. Um,
No, Prime. Santa Ana is not a fucking place. He's the dictator of Mexico that invaded Texas. He's a multi-time president. He's maybe the most successful Mexican leader of all time, if you really want to get down to it. He led the Mexicans. They even called him out of retirement after exiling him to fight in
what
the Mexican-American War.
what does
I mean,
that?
this. What does this have to do? Well, I don't know if you know this. Abraham Lincoln did this cool thing
It's
called the
not.
Emancipation Proclamation because he actually wanted to abolish slavery, right? Santa Anna didn't give a fuck. He just used whatever he could to try to get these Texans under his thumb. That's what he was doing. That's why he killed the slaves when he was here, not because he was an abolitionist. Now,
Hold
this
on.
is
I never said.
hold on. I let you give your whole
Sure.
biased liberal leftist agenda
Okay.
AI speech. It's fine. I'm actually correcting you on actual Texas history now, but that's fine. You just admitted you didn't even know Santa Ana wasn't a person. You thought he was a place. So
I mean,
we don't
it
need
is a place. It's multiple places. So
yeah,
I just looked that up. It
sure.
actually is multiple places. So I don't know
I'm
what to tell
sure
you.
it is, but nobody's
It
talking about the
is.
place Santa
You said
Anna.
it wasn't a place, but it is a place. But okay.
Well, okay. Listen, Prime. In the context, Santa Ana invading Texas, it has no Santa Ana. The places have no bearing on the Texas Revolution.
Okay, fair enough.
That's all right. That's fine. All right, moving on. I do care, and this is why I take umbrage with Prime's thing here about the like when I use the Alamo as an example, right? My family, for example, there used to be as a hotel called the Colonel Gibbs Hotel. There, we literally have cannons from the Alamo proudly displayed there in the hotel. They go there. You can go there. There's memorials. It talks about the history, yada yada, etc. It's memorialized. Now, we have real problems with the state who runs the Alamo because they keep fucking using it for every little Tom, Dick, and Sally event, and it's like pissing on the fucking thing. And then you can say we can go and protest it, but then we literally have someone like George P. Bush wanting to move the Alamo because it's nationalized. They want to dig it up, move it to another location, and turn this into an event area, or because it's in downtown in the middle of San Antonio. Now, when you're saying we should nationalize it, like I think that you would also be very upset, and you would want to do more than protest, or not want to get to the point of protest if they were like, "Hey, we're gonna go to this plantation. We're gonna literally dig up where these slaves have been buried in a mass grave, and we're going to turn it into a open air market for fiesta. And we're going to have everybody out there, and we're going to be eating elote, and we're going to be dancing, and we're going to have fucking bands playing on this gravesite, and we're going to move these guys 300 feet that way because it's inconvenient." I think you would have a problem with that, and I think that this idea that, hey, nationalizing these things is the answer is not always the case, because it actually ends up being more disrespectful when a state government or a city government or the national government goes, "Hey, we can make a quick buck here, and let's fucking put it in Miss Congeniality. Let's host the Miss America pageant." Like, I mean, these are problems. Let's go host Fiesta or Night Out in Old San Antonio on the grounds of the Alamo. I mean, I have less of a problem with that because at least it's historically part of San Antonio. But then it's like, oh, we're going to put the Miss America and we're going to do the fucking Congeniality little water cup spinny thing, and we're going to all laugh as they fall. Like, this is a mockery. It's a mockery.
What?
Well,
Sorry, I don't. Sorry, Gibbs, help me out here. Why do you think I'm defending the use? Do you think that I'm defending the use of the Alamo as whatever it is?
No, I
so I'm
think
not,
that you're.
right?
I don't
So-
think you're doing that. No, I think you're defending
Okay.
the nationalization and of these sites because you want them memorialized. And I'm saying that there's a major issue with that because a lot of times the state government, the national government, when they
Then-
memorialize these, they use them for nefarious
Okay,
things.
okay. So let's find.
As opposed to private people.
Sure. Okay, all right. Well, then let's find a way to bridge our problem here. Okay, so if you're saying there's a site that means a lot to you, right? Slave Defending Alamo. Fine. You have this site means a bunch to you, and you don't like the way the state has been using it. And maybe I think what you're saying is that under private hands, right? Then it would be used more respectfully. Well, then,
Probably, yeah.
okay. Well, then, sure. Then I support your ability, right, to one lobby the government or just like buy it outright, right? To just like to come up with a fat check, present it to your state government, and then buy the land and then use it in the way that you find the most
They won't do
respectful.
that. It's a national
Go ahead,
park.
right?
They're not
So
gonna do
great.
that.
What'd you say?
They won't. But they won't allow that. It's already been.
Okay, well then,
made
like
a
I'm saying,
national
well
park.
then you should lobby the government because like we sell off our national land all the time, right? Unfortunately, you should lobby the government. I support you lobbying the government to buy the land and then do what you think is the best with it, right? If that's what you care about, but it has no bearing on what I was saying in terms of the plantations, none. Okay, right? Like I
What do you
said,
mean it doesn't? It's the same thing, isn't it? Right?
no,
So,
it's
like, if
not
you-
because I don't
hold on.
give a fuck about the Alamo. I don't give a fuck about the
well, hold
Alamo.
on.
I'm
Okay,
specifically
but
talking about.
But I understand that, Prime. What I'm arguing is, right, so you have a problem with the private owners of this plantation doing XYZ with it, right? I have a problem with the public owners, the national government doing this with the Alamo. Let's just
Okay.
relate it. Let's just say they were switched. All right. If the private owners of the Alamo were doing that, I would have problems, right? Just like you have problems with the private owners of these plantations. If the national government now comes in, they eminent domain this plantation, like you
Yeah.
suggested, and then
Mhm.
instead of doing what you're suggesting, they go and, hey, it's going to be a wedding venue, and we're going to do exactly what these guys were doing. You would be mad. You would be upset,
Yeah,
right?
and I would lobby the
He
government.
would lobby the
Well, I
so
said
that's
that.
not
I
solving
said
the-
that an
but that's
hour
not
ago.
sol- But that's not
What are you
solving the
talking-
problem, Prime. That's
No,
not
it
solving the
is.
problem
No,
at
it
all.
is. It is. That's how you interact. Sorry, wait a minute. Hold on. Let me go around the room. Right. Let's ask other people. How do you interact with your government? Okay. Right. So your government is doing a thing that you don't want to do. Right. How do you interact with it? Right. So you
Bribe them.
I would say. Hold on. We're gonna ask
discriminate
that.
pretty
We're
black, right?
gonna
Sorry,
go around the
lobbying.
room. No, we're gonna
With money.
we can vote the politicians out, whoever made the decision, right? And we can protest, right? Like, are those three? Do you think they're valid options? Lactoid, any of those three? Lactoid.
What
Do you
was the
think those
first one?
any?
What was the first
But
one you
that's not
said?
them solving the problem you're presenting. Though,
Hold on, wait a second. No. Lobby, voting, and what was the shit? Was the last one I said? Lobby,
Protest.
voting, and protesting. Right. Yeah. So, are any of those three valid options for interacting with government when they're doing something you don't like?
They are ways to interact with your government that currently exist. Do I think that they're always ethical? No.
No, and I'm not asking if they're ethical. I'm just saying
They currently
these are
exist.
valid
Yes.
reasons.
They
They're valid
they
reasons.
are legal. Yes. Yeah.
They are valid ways to do that. Okay.
Yes,
All
you
right,
can,
so I'm gonna leave that alone.
you can buy the government. You can get together a bunch of people and control your government through mob rule, and you can get together and yell about your government. Sure, you can
Okay,
do those
sure.
things. Yes,
You
correct.
can do those things. Corey, are those valid ways to interact with your government when it's doing something you don't like?
Yes, I think those are generally valid ways, and there are other ways as well.
And there are other ways as well. Okay,
This
if
doesn't
I was
answer
not
the
here,
question we
Binks.
asked.
Like
though.
Binks,
coups, just ask
are
Ukraine.
those
Go ahead,
valid?
Binks.
Are those valid ways interacting with your government?
Yes.
Okay, great. So these are how I'm going to do that. If you want to coup the government, Gibbs, right? If that's something that's on your
You're
mind,
not
well,
even addressing the question, Prime. You're not even
yes.
addressing.
How else am I
Okay,
going to interact with my government?
all right.
How do I
Let's just
solve the
try this
problem
again.
otherwise?
Let's try this again. All right, let me just break it down. All right, I get everything you're saying. We can do this, right? You're right. What is the problem you want solved? You want this disrespectful institution, right, to stop being used. This thing with this negative history to stop being used as XYZ venue, correct? You want it memorialized as a place of tragedy. You don't want to be memorialized as a happy wedding venue, correct?
Yeah, yes.
Okay, now what I'm saying is if that's what you want solved
Mm-hmm.
and you nationalize it and the government turns around and does exactly that, yes, you can do all those things, but you have not solved the problem. Your solution is the exact same problem.
But yeah, but I think he recognizes that he doesn't always get his way.
Yeah.
Just
Yeah.
like, okay, I'm curious, Gibbs.
So
like,
then you're not offering a real solution then.
wait. Like, I'm curious. Like, so you're all in favor of private property, and also if a movie studio was somehow managed to buy the Alamo and they started filming Miss Congeniality 3 and 4, what are you going to do? Or are you going to just
For
live with
road
that?
tickets.
Well, I mean, I could do what the leftists do and burn it
Well,
down,
no,
I
that doesn't
guess,
answer.
but
That doesn't
I
answer
mean,
my
I
question.
won't do that.
What would you do? Stop dodging. What would you do?
Oh, I mean, I would fucking do what we've always done, and we would fucking write letters to the editor. We would protest. We would do all the things Prime
That
described.
doesn't
Except it
solve
doesn't
the
work. It
that
doesn't
doesn't
work. It
yeah,
doesn't solve the
exactly.
issue
So what would you do? How it doesn't solve the
Because
issue.
the government has done government overreach, and that's the real problem here. Is governmental overreach. They're eminent domain land. They shouldn't have done. It should have stayed in private owners.
My hypothetical was like a movie studio somehow acquires the Alamo and they just want to
Are they
shoot
privately owned or are they
all Miss
publicly owned?
Congeniality. Well, it's a movie studio. I'm generally speaking. I assume most of them are privately, if not all of them, privately owned.
So
And so, what would you do if Warner Brothers, assuming that's the studio that makes Miss Congeniality, they just want to shoot all their sequels now, just Sandra Bullock all the time, 24/7 on the Alamo? What would you do?
They just move
I
her
mean,
in like the president.
I mean, I would probably at that point, I would probably lobby, like y'all have suggested. Yes,
That
sure.
doesn't solve.
To get a law written that we can no longer use the fucking Alamo for fucking comedic movies. I mean, that would be my attempt. However, the likelihood of that getting passed is terrible. And the idea that this is my point, though, that I'm making is you're saying this is a problem we have, right? It's being used XYZ. The government still could use it for XYZ. It would be better for them to be in charge and them do XYZ and then me lobby and protest it later and just steal this from their rightful landowners. That's what you're saying is the solution. I don't think that's actually a solution. You're just stealing from one guy and then giving the problem to somebody else to keep doing the exact same shit.
I don't see how that answers my question, but okay.
Let me frame it a different way. I guess Corey and Prime. This is a question to both of you. If Gibbs really cares about Texas, right, and really likes Texas, let's say instead of just the Alamo, which I think was it's like a single, very historically and culturally important spot, and I can see the argument maybe comparably for like Monticello or even like Hurricane, the Hurricane Plantation, right, because of the historical importance of those specific areas. But you guys seem to be, or at least Prime does, you seem to be going like further than that, which like every single plantation, even ones that aren't like necessarily like historical landmarks, just kind of were just plantations that people lived in the South, in the antebellum South.
No, were there enslaved
So,
people there?
of course, there were also free people
Okay.
for
So
sure.
then,
Yes.
no, so there were, so it was
There
a
were
side of
there were yes, there were enslaved people who lived in the plantations. Of course, there were
Okay,
there were enslaved
okay. So
people
that wasn't
who
sure.
worked and lived
I'm a little
all across the
confused.
United States, but especially the plantations. But
Yeah. So
I was
sorry,
going to
I'm
get to
just
a point though.
clarifying.
I was
I'm
going to
just
get
clarifying.
to a point.
Just clarifying.
The point was, what if Gibbs said every single spot where a Texan died during that war, like that should be cordoned off as a memorial site, every single site.
That was my argument.
And then you would say, well, that'd be ridiculous. I don't give that much of a fuck about the war. And that's ultimately what it comes down to. If you really, really care enough to like nationalize every single plantation or nationalize every single place where one soldier fell, or really, really care all to that extent, and you know, Prime, there's people who maybe take a more extreme version than you do. You know, you take the plantation, you say is like, you know, this is the heart of Southern power, this is where the slaves lived and died. But of course, you know, there's also Wall Street, which was literally a wall that slaves were sold. There's some people who might argue to nationalize all of Wall Street. That should just be a slave memorial site because that's where they came into America and were sold. That's arguably much more historically important than just the plantations. And then what about White House that was built? The White House should be turned into a slavery plant and museum. I know you're not making this argument, but somebody who cared a lot about this could make those arguments. And so I think the problem that we're kind of running into on this is like I don't really have an argument for you that's going to be super satisfying to you, like in terms of like my opposition to this, other than do I like the idea of stealing a bunch of money to eminent domain, like hundreds or thousands of properties that are very expensive, by the way. So we're going to have to raise a fuck ton of money to do it and take a fuck ton of money to do it, to nationalize them and turn them into these like perpetual guilt trip museums, right? For the rest of eternity that we're going to have to like pay to maintain and uphold and everything. Like, is that worth it to me? And it's just not. Just like I would be heavily opposed to Gibbs's plan, let's say if he proposed turning every single spot where a Texan soldier died into a memorial, I would say that's a waste of fucking money. Don't do it. We got much more important fish to fry.
I'm going to respond. So, like this is a weird argument, Lactoid, right? What you're trying to do is force me to defend like other people's points. I'm really imagine people's points, right? Like, hey, someone else might do something more extreme. I don't give a fuck. Like, you're engaging with my opinion. This is what I think should be done.
Yes, you have arbitrarily drawn a line, and my line is below yours.
Yes, and we can. Yes, that's obviously. So this is my arbitrary line. Lots of things in our society are arbitrary, right? Let's not pretend that the things, all the things that our society does, right? All the places we protect, we have national historic sites, right? We have a bunch of them. Why is one building a national historic site when another one wasn't, right? Like when one person who has been acknowledged within our society, that's historic, right? But because they lived in this house for like 5 years, but in this other house, they might have lived there for longer, and that is not a national historic site, right? It could be arbitrary. There could be all kinds of reasons. All kinds of reasons happen for this. But like, if we're going to draw an arbitrary line, okay, I'll draw another arbitrary line. Right, my arbitrary line happens to be around these plantations. If you want to expand that, well, then, like I told Gibbs, then you can expand that.
I'm not expanding. I'm not expanding it though. I'm shrinking it.
I know you're not.
Just to clarify for you, can you clarify when you're talking about plantations? What about plantations that had slaves but are just used for like agriculture now? Like somebody else bought it and they're like, "Oh, this is a nice house, whatever."
I'll come back to that.
Use it for like
ask me that later on. So and I'll respond to that. But I just got to finish this with Lactoid. Like you're saying, hey, other people on Twitter might have like a more extreme position than you, right? Did you ever think of that? No, I don't, because I never think about, why would I think about the other people's positions on these things, right? You're engaging with my position, so actually engage with that.
You're saying
Gibbs could. No, you're not. No, you're not. Because if you did, right, you'd actually engage with the argument that I actually put forward, right? And did. The other thing is that, no, you're not. Because the other thing is that you're saying, well, I don't like it because you're stealing taxes. Well, yeah, I know you're a libertarian. I'm not doing this to convince you. And I know also, thirdly, right, you're white, and this doesn't matter to you. It doesn't.
Well, hold on. That third point was sort of my argument.
I know.
To some extent, you're missing the point, right? In the same way, you can say, "Well, Lactoid, you're white. You just don't care that much." I'm going to say, "Yeah, and you're black. You care too much." And Gibbs is Texan. He cares too much about the Alamo. I don't give a fuck about the Alamo. Sorry.
Yeah, I know you don't. Like I don't care about the Alamo. That's fine. You're allowed to not care.
I
But
don't
hold
care
on, my
about any
argument
of
was like, hold
this.
on. My argument doesn't require Lactoid caring about any of these things, right? Like
If you want my vote, it does.
If no, hold on. If our political policies, well, no, my political policies, and none of them would get through if it relied on Lactoid. If the Lactoid gave a fuck about the thing, because Lactoid is against all my political policies, then nothing would get through. But that's never the point of these conversations to say specifically, hey, is a Lactoid? Does Lactoid approve? No, actually, it doesn't fucking matter if Lactoid approves. I'm putting forward my policy prescription that I've come up with, right? And then you can engage with that, right? You can accept it or reject it. You're rejecting it, that's okay, right? You can give me your reasons for rejecting it. But to say like, well, it's silly because I reject it,
I'm not
right?
saying it's silly.
Because I rejected, now it's invalidated.
I'm not saying it's silly. Again, you're missing
hold on,
it.
but
You're
you're saying,
missing the point.
hold on, no, you said, hey, you didn't get my vote. So if you need my vote,
I'm
then it's
not-
important that you make me white man Lactoid because
I'm
the
not-
fuck about any of
I'm
this
not
care.
saying it's. I'm
But
not saying it's silly.
Hold on,
You're
last
missing
thing,
the point.
the last thing I'm saying is that none of this was to convince as I say, like a group of people who don't care, because about this history. There's a group of people who have done everything they can to erase this history. I acknowledge all of that, right? And I'm saying, right, because this is a significant part of U.S. history, because it's tied in deeply, right? Slavery was the engine of economic prosperity, not just for the South, but for the North that traded with the South. Because of all that, this is something important. So I put forward my case and engage with that, right?
No, but there's nothing. But my point is, there's nothing to like. There's nothing. There's no way I can engage with it. You're like I said at the very beginning. There's no way that I'm going to be able to engage with this that's going to be satisfying to you, because ultimately this is just going to come down to how much we care about it. No, it's not about being wrong. About being right. Right? Gibbs really cares about the Alamo. Is he wrong in caring about the Alamo? Sure.
No.
So exactly. So he's not wrong in caring about the Alamo. But
he should lobby.
But sure, he can do whatever the fuck he wants. I don't care. And in fact, he could lobby to turn every single spot where a Texan soldier died into some kind of memorial. Sure, he can do that. But what I'm going to say is that seems excessive. I don't value the Alamo, like the remembering like that specific war so much, to take up so much land, to take up so much resources, to build so much, to like remember this. It's just not that valuable to me.
It sounds like your response is that, like, hey, all of our political battles is just your opinion, man, right? And I have a different opinion, man. And so, like, I guess there's nothing else to say. I think that's all our discussions. Our discussions are just our opinion.
I think his point is that this is a bit arbitrary for him to argue, because, like, you're picking this specific line, and then he's saying, like, you can't even do hypotheticals around it, because if you were to follow through with like your logic, which is why I asked you, like, is it limited to plantations, or is it limited, like the entire Jim Crow South was like engaged in like social torture, right? There is going to be an argument made where like some people may be like, hey, we'll need to memorialize this entire area. Does your logic apply to that? And if it doesn't, then it wouldn't, like, why does it not trickle down?
Political will.
Ali, there are everywhere around the world, everywhere in the world. Well, I guess in the modern world, let's just say, right? In the modern world, right? There are memorials, right? But those memorials don't necessarily cover every square inch of where the thing took place, right? Like,
well, that brings me to my question.
Hold on a second. Let me. As soon as I'm done with Ali, I'll go straight to you.
Yeah,
sure. So, it doesn't necessarily apply, or it doesn't cover every single tragedy that's ever happened in that area. That's okay, right? But the people have chosen, right? They've made an arbitrary decision as to which ones they're going to memorialize, right? Which ones are important to our national identity? Which ones are going to matter? And that has been a political battle the entire time, right? What tragedies get memorialized and what don't are always a political battle every single time. Some of them fiercer than others, but they're political battles. And so they made those decisions, and then they made the memorials, right? I'm saying, hey, we should expand that. We should expand that.
I know. I think the confusion here was that you were misinterpreting me just stating my opinion of what I think needs to be memorialized as me saying that your opinion is somehow silly. If you really care about this, like, I don't think it's like there's no definitive way to call any kind of memorial site silly if somebody just like deeply cares about it. If Gibbs genuinely cares so much about Texas, which I think he does, like, frankly, I saw him get like a little bit emotional just there, a little bit about the Alamo, right? He actually cares about that. And there's probably a lot of like Texas sites that he cares a lot about that I don't know nothing about, and I really don't have a lot of cultural investment in, frankly. And what I'm so sure that's fine. He can care about that. I'm just saying that for my opinion on the topic, do I think that it's worth confiscating all of these plantations and turning them into these kind of historical like museums dedicated to slavery? I don't. I can see Hurricane and
What if the
Monticello.
argument was like
maybe.
specific
Well,
plantations,
that's why
right?
that's why I asked that question, because I actually like kind of split from you a little bit, Lactoid, in this, right? Like you brought up like if I cared about every little soldier like spot died, right? Like I'm not talking about going out to the like battlefield of Gonzales and like eminent domaining Jose's fucking land
But
because
somebody
so and
could.
so died. So right, somebody could, right? I get that argument. This is why I asked Prime, because I'm kind of trying to get down to the core problem is, and this is what I was bringing up earlier with like, okay, the government does the same bad thing, then lobbying is not enough, or this other thing. Also, if I lose power, there's a massive storm, or somebody might hit something. But the other thing I was asking Prime was with this, and you kind of like Ali just kind of touched on it, was are you saying every plantation, right? Like, what about like if I bought a plantation in Georgia that used to be for cotton, and I like tore down the slave quarters, I tore down the mansion, I industrialized it, and turned it into a peach farm? Would you be, or would you be like, nope, we need an eminent domain that and turn it into a a memorial? Or would you be like, no, it's being used for something productive? And I did never have like it ever make a music thing. You know what I'm saying?
I definitely don't care about it being used for something productive. I care about like its place in history. I could say this, right? Let's say I don't
But I'm
know
not
all the
benefiting off
history.
the bad. You know what I'm saying? You're doing something totally different, unattached to the history of it. Yeah, the history's still there, but you're not.
Yeah, at first it doesn't sound, at first blush it doesn't sound appealing to me. But hold on, I could say that let's say we looked into the past, right, we did like the genealogy of the house. Someone mentioned that previously, right? I think it was Ali. And do a genealogy of the house, right? And yes, it was a plantation, but like for like a month, right? And then like like it was like just bought as a plantation, and then the Civil War ended, and then the slaves were freed, right? Like, is it worth necessarily memorializing this particular site? Or maybe not. Maybe that might make sense. So maybe not every single one. There could be ones that you could present an argument to me, right? Again, if Prime is the decider here, and I'm not, but if Prime is the decider, you could present an argument for this particular land, and maybe though it definitely has a title of plantation, that there might be some overriding reasons, like maybe it wasn't used for that for very long or whatever, right? And then back to
All the
what.
land too, or just like the main
Prime, real
buildings?
quick, real quick, just on that point. The reason I brought the point up about the guy buying the house is that he had to do a genealogy to find out that it wasn't a plantation home. The assumption was that it was immediately, right? And I guess what I was saying is that like at a certain point you don't know, like we don't know the difference between a plantation home and a non-plantation home. It seems like, because like once again, I think certain houses, the aesthetic of the houses just happens to be racist, and so that's what I'm saying is like if you like to memorialize them, you'd have to go and search each plantation, find out the history of the plantation, and do it. That's what you want
We have
done.
to do our homework. Yeah, we
Well,
should do our homework, not just
well,
assume.
Well, this is why I was asking, like, how far do you want to take this, right? Like, so, like, with my example, like, I bulldozed the big house, I bulldozed the slave quarters, and we just modernized buildings. Okay, you don't like that? Okay, cool. So, what if instead of that, right? I buy the land, and I give the big house and the slave quarters, and I guess whatever little buildings are right there to the government. Cool, we got that. Now I want to keep all the rest of the surrounding plantation land and use it to grow like peaches. Do
I
you
see
have
what you're
a
saying.
do you have a
I see
problem
what you're
with
saying.
that, or is it like just the
Yeah, yeah.
land? Like what is your?
Yeah. No, I see what you're saying. In that case, I think there would be a pretty good argument that like the focal points, right? Like the main parts of not just like the whole plot of land, like not every square inch of it, like a slave died on every square inch of the thing. Oh, right, yeah. So like I think it would make sense to maybe limit that to like the focal points there, right? If there's like a very, very large tract of land, then maybe other parts of that land could be sold off to
Yeah, they're usually
for more
sold.
production. Yeah, I can see that. Yeah. Back to, and assuming there's nothing else anyone wanted to say to me here. I wanted to address our friend Lactoid again. Lactoid, you're a fucking libertarian. You don't want to use taxes for anything, right? So the fact that you don't want to use taxes, right? Like that's like just like background radiation. That's all the arguments, right? That's
No,
not
I'm
actually.
not. Stop. I'm not.
No, but that's what
Look.
that's how you presented your arguments,
No,
right?
no, that's not
I
how.
don't think it's worth using stolen money to for this
Yes,
social
yes.
purpose, right?
I had to throw
I
that
think
in.
you're just a little. I think you're a little annoyed with him on this topic. So
Yeah, yeah,
you see,
I had to throw that in.
I see the point
I'm
he's
not
trying
annoyed.
to make. I see the point he's trying to
Yes.
make a little bit more than you do.
Thank you. So the gist of my point is, I understand that people want to use public money to build remembrances and memorials and all that stuff. I get that
Okay.
concept. Am I generally against the public money? Yes, I am. Okay, I'm not going to lie about that. Do I understand this is still going to happen? Sure. And I can, I guess, understand it to some degree if we're talking about, like, to some reasonable degree, reasonable being in with what obviously I find to be reasonable. Do I find it reasonable to preserve the Alamo? I could see a strong argument, sure, to preserve the Alamo. That's like a site of deep cultural heritage in the U.S. and specifically Texas, for sure. Do I see the benefit, I guess, of like Hurricane Plantation, which was the plantation that funded Jefferson Davis, who would go on to become the president of the Confederacy? Do I see that as like turning that into some kind of like memorial of slavery? There's a strong argument there. Or maybe like Monticello, like pointing out some hypocrisy. Sure, I get that. Those arguments make I'm more willing to be swayed on arguments like that. Where I find difficulty, where I don't go as far as you do, and I'm not saying that you're silly in this opinion, but where my opinion just isn't shared by you, and also wouldn't be shared, I guess, by maybe not Gibbs, but let's say some kind of like even more pro-Texan Gibbs who wanted to turn everything into like a war site memorial, or you who wants to turn every plantation into like this kind of like slavery memorial, or I don't know, somebody who wants to turn some other thing into like a whole bunch of shit into some fucking memorial. I don't know. I'm looking at like the total amount of expense here, the total amount of land usage, the total amount of like things that aren't even really like strongly culturally associated with this in like historical ways that we really know about, like Hurricane was or the Alamo was, but just random fucking plantations all across like the South. It seems like
not every
overkill.
plantation is historic.
Yeah,
not every plantation has like
well,
historic
it's
significance. Like some of
historic.
them were just owned by some random fuck who
Yeah,
had like
exactly.
a plantation.
That's how most
like
of them are.
this
It's like
isn't
some
a site.
guy-
This isn't a site that would provide like I guess what I'm hearing from that is like let's just say you memorialized all the plantations. I would probably assume that 90% of the plantations are going to be like no name. No one's going to look at them. Like the preservation on them isn't even going to be worth it because it's just like there is no history there other than yes, there were slaves here, just like the other hundreds of plantations that are across America.
Pretty
So
much.
like, if your argument was to preserve like specific plantations, major plantations, a historic plantation, sure, but like every single plantation, just it doesn't seem like it's like worth it even to like even to you, right? If all of them were preserved, I don't think it matters to you because you're not going to go look at them all. You're not going to go see them. It doesn't really hold any significance to you other than like America's not trying to whitewash their history. That's kind of what it seems like you want to do. You want to make sure that like we're not whitewashing history. We're not losing all the history. So then I think your argument should be to preserve specific plantations that you believe like hold some type of significance versus every single plantation, which is like, yes, you're right. All of these, like they all had torture, they all had slavery, but it's like what the preservation has to do something. Like it can't just be preserved so that no one ever looks at the history of it.
First of all, I actually literally want people to look at the history of it. So
yeah, I know, but are they going to?
But,
are they going to?
That
like there are plantations
why,
open right now that are preserved that people don't visit. To Binks's point, like there are.
Like I said, yeah, I don't. That sounds like to me like, hey, there's no profit motive there. People,
no, not even profit, not even profit. Education motive. There's no educational motive to a plantation that exists as a memorial that no one is going to visit. There, no, if no one's going to visit it, it doesn't matter if it exists.
So we have land. We have laws around Native American burial sites.
Sure.
As to like what to do with those things. And we have like a process, right? Like as to how like to preserve this land.
But it matters to certain people, right? It matters to the Native Americans or like these are dead bodies, right?
Yeah.
Like
and
it matters to lands.
It matters to a lot of Black people about these like if your family, for instance, happened to some of your family was part of that slave plantation, yeah, it actually matters to you, right? Like if within that community, just within that community, it matters because a lot of the descendants like happen to stay there. Well, then yeah, it matters to them, right? Now, it may not matter on a national scale. It may not matter It may not be a big tourist site, but that's why I said like, hey, let's take it out of
But
private
even
hands. Private
community,
hands
if
would
within the
demand.
community it doesn't serve its purpose, right? So like Binks was saying that there is like a major plantation in this town, people can go visit, but it's only open on Tuesdays and Wednesdays because people go on field trips from like 11 to 2 p.m. Right? It's not really serving its purpose as memorialized because people don't seem to care within that community. I'm saying if people cared within the communities, then like one, they would be opting for memorialization and probably get that pushed some way or another. But like, do you think people want to continue? Like, do you think the people within the community want to have the existing plantation until like continue, like go and remember what happened? Like, how often do you visit any of these types of historic sites? Like yourself, right? Someone who seems to care about it.
Like I can tell you, probably there's a plantation in Louisiana. It's being used by the community as like an event center, like that. Like there's a plantation near me, owned by the state. It has a foundation. Every other month, they do like a farmers market where people are like old people sell their bird houses and shit like that. And like, dude, like, are you against that? Because like that's literally like every major plantation in probably the entire South. Like they all do that to make money, even when they're like nationalized.
Well, I think they shouldn't have to do that if they are nationalized. They should, they shouldn't need to make a profit off of it. That's kind of the whole point of doing that. So,
Well, they
like,
still have to have
whatever.
like
It could be the
foundations that
case
need
that the
money
way that
to.
they're currently running it is not the way that I would agree to run them. But like, whatever, right? Like, I don't. Like, I don't know. Like, yeah, you're saying, hey, they might do a thing that you may not be in favor of. Well, whatever. It's just how that always goes. I don't get what I want. But you're interrogating what I want. Well,
Well,
like,
the absolutism of what you want, right? You want all. I'm saying some, right? Like I'm saying you should take into consideration some, maybe 10, 15%, right? Like 20%, whatever like number you come up with. But to say like all, because I don't think it's going to serve the purpose that you want. The purpose you want is to educate people on these places and not. And I don't think if you let's just say there's 1,000 plantations, right? If we memorialize all 1,000 of them, I highly doubt that 1,000 of them are going to be visited by these people and share the type of education that you even want spread. Versus if you focused on like historic ones with significance, then you still get what you're asking for. You can reference the other ones around the area.
I hear what you're saying. One, my argument doesn't rely on people visiting, like at all. I feel like I've made that clear already, but like apparently not. Like it
No, it
doesn't.
has to be about them visiting because if they
No,
don't go, how are they
no,
going
it
to learn
literally
about
doesn't.
them?
You're saying
How would
it
they learn
does, but
about them?
no, like it's not simply for educational purposes, right? It's like a memorial doesn't necessarily, like you can have a plaque, right? This happens all the time, right? Where you put up a plaque, like today, right? We're gonna put up a plaque, right? Dedicated to the Reverie panel, right? This is the last Reverie panel that ever happens. Not true, right? We're back next week. But the last Reverie panel that ever happens, we pick a spot, right? Wherever Lactoid lives, right? And that's where we're gonna plant this plaque, right?
Memorialize, yeah.
Yeah, right. But like no one ever reads the plaque, right? Not a single person. Like it's like a little plinth we put up, right, with a plaque, right? And people like recognize it's like part of the community, but like no one actually engages with that. Does that mean that's not worth moralizing? Well, my panel probably not. But like pretending that it was something that was worth moralizing.
There's a limit, though.
That's
Wait.
the thing. That's the thing.
Yeah, hold on.
The thing is, what
I'm
would be the
gonna
point of
engage. I'm gonna engage the other half.
memorializing it?
I promise. I'm gonna engage with the other half. Right.
Yeah.
So I'm just like, that was the first half. So Corey, I see your hand. That was the first half, right?
Yeah.
Like, so it doesn't actually matter if people read the plaque. If not, like every generation comes to Lactoid's house, wherever that happens to be, right, with a plaque, the little plinth is, and like looks at the plaque and then like takes it in a moment to like remember the reverie, right? Like that's okay if that doesn't happen. And that's just like a spot in the community and no one actually really remembers, right? That's not the point of these things. It's not how they ever work. So it doesn't my argument doesn't rely on that. However, second part of your argument, I think, is more convincing. Okay. And I hear you, and I understand this is the point that Lactoid was trying to make as well. That you're saying focus on the most significant ones. I think that's a valid argument to say that. I don't know. Well, it would have to be arbitrary against something like Lactoid doesn't like, but it would have to be arbitrary as to like where I make that delineation. But like I said, I was saying this before that like, hey, like there could be sites that just aren't significant enough, right? Like it wasn't a plantation long enough, or maybe some other overriding reason that just like it doesn't make sense to also include this. So there, even within my original formulation of this, it still had room for that. But I hear what you're saying, that like maybe the number of plantations is much bigger than I'm even thinking, right? And the amount of land that we're talking about is much bigger than I'm currently like taking into account. Um, I hear your point. And if that's the case, then and let's just say it is 1,000, right? If that's the case, then I think it might be a good idea then to limit the scope.
There we go.
So
Come to a conclusion.
out of out of out of, out of
And this is the first
curiosity,
time ever. Is this the first time ever we've come to a conclusion?
No, we've done it before.
At 10 o'clock, it's only been an hour and a half. All right,
Oh,
listen.
yeah. Sorry, Corey.
All right, stochastic
So-
terrorism now.
well, no,
To the fun half
maybe
now,
this
yeah.
might conclude. I'm just curious, just to see again, understand Prime's position better. So I understand, for let's say the plantation sites that you care about. Understandably, you don't want, let's say, an office building there. But I'm curious, is it permissible for you of like, if assuming it's nationalized, the government, this is now just restricted land and like nobody goes there. It's just like just fenced off and cordoned off, and no human is just able to go on that land. Is that permissible to you?
Mm, I mean, there might be a reason why you want to fence it off, but I doubt. Like, I think, like for most national parks, basically, I'm saying like it's kind of like a national park type situation. At least that's what I'm imagining. Maybe we can think of another designation that makes more
Well,
sense.
I
So I don't
so
know. So I don't
if
know.
it's like akin to a now, like I assume, I don't actually know for sure, but I assume you don't want just like people like, I don't know, having a picnic there or whatnot and just like loitering.
Yeah. So like again, I don't know the proper designation for this. Is what I'm saying.
Fair enough.
Uh,
But I'm
and
just saying, is
how
that permissible to you in terms of like this is just now a no go area?
no go area.
Like you wanted to be
No,
treated with like the seriousness of like Auschwitz or Dachau or something like that, right? Like that's kind of
yeah,
that was your argument.
At least for yeah. Like if we're especially we're limiting this down to like the major ones, whatever that means. Then yeah, I think we should be treating it with that level of seriousness. Um, and I imagine people take pictures there, and I imagine the locals actually have picnics around Auschwitz, right? Like it probably happens, and even though in the poor taste, but it happens. To fence it off to say it's a no go area, um, especially if we're like because these are huge plots of land. Like if we're talking specifically like the main areas, like we are discussing before, like the main house and maybe the slave barracks and other places, maybe the torture implements that actually managed to survive, then it seems like those areas would be like controlled, right? That would be like a museum type place, right? Where not just anyone can walk in at any point in time, but then the rest of the land might be open to like public activities. I don't know. You guys are asking me to design like the
No,
exact
no, I
like
know,
operational scope of
like
these places. I don't.
I'm just trying to, because like I understand you want a memorial. I'm just trying to see like what sort of like your bare minimum for memorial, as in like is a bare minimum like the land is just now essentially sacred land and just like nobody can go there. It seems like that is not overall permissible to you, assuming it's a
No, I
large
want
plot.
people to go. I want people to go and interact with the land.
Well, yeah, so that's what I was
Like
saying, or at least
yeah,
I think Ali was sort of, I think, alluding to that point of like, if this is a plantation that pretty much like nobody goes to, and therefore they're not learning about the history, that seems to circumvent, I think, some of your intentions there, or at least doesn't actually get to what you want, and that's why I'm also bringing up was like, do you just want? Is it okay for you to just have like this is
and my
restricted land,
understanding.
and
So, and maybe I'm wrong, right? If I am wrong, then maybe we haven't actually reached a conclusion, and we have to fight again. But it seemed like what Ali was saying was that that is for like these minor plantations, right? There's only a few of these spots that actually draw tourists on a regular basis, and those are the ones that people are definitely going to interact with. And like think about like the seriousness of the site, rather than some place in some hole in the wall of Louisiana. Excuse
And
me,
that's what
sorry.
Binks was saying, right? That like most of them are just like farmers
Yeah,
markets, right? Event centers. That's just sort of like
yeah. So like what my understanding was is that like um, what Ali was saying, what Lacto was saying, that like it only makes sense for to use the major ones for this purposes, right? And if it's one of the major ones, then I think that solves that problem, that people actually are interacting with these things, coming there for the purpose of interacting with a plantation, right? An actual plantation, rather than any other reason, because they have the deepest historical meanings. That's my understanding. But it sounds like for what you're saying is that like that all of them aren't like I don't. Yeah, are you saying something differently from that?
Are you asking me?
Yeah, you.
Yeah, well, yeah. So I'm asking, like, what is your bare minimum for a memorial site, basically?
What makes it significant or not?
Yeah,
right? Like
because
how,
like
I don't
it,
know.
it,
You guys
I
are making me make this distinction
I know.
between major and minor. I don't know what the.
That's why it's like, so Ali's like, I think, like, carved out a sort of I think a reasonable compromise that you seem to be on board with, because like he was bringing up the extreme case, like if this is a plantation that like literally no one's going to go to, and that's sort of my extreme example. And it's like not like, sure, it's a historical site, but like, is it actually significant if like no one actually visits it? And it seems like you want people to visit it.
well, we got to 10, 15% of
and
plantations now. The other ones can be used.
and it seems like you want them to visit it, understandably, so that maybe they at least interact with the history in some way, or through.
But so hon, maybe I that last statement I was inartful. So I got to marry these two things. One, I said previously, it doesn't matter if people actually come to a memorial, right? Like that's fine. Doesn't mean that there's not any point in memorializing one at a time, even if not all future generations directly interact with it. But the fact is, you did memorialize it. This is a thing that happened within the community, and people, if they want to, they can learn about it, right? But the fact that not necessarily everyone does, or it's a popular spot, that has of no concern to me, and it's of no concern to most memorials.
That's what I extracted out in terms of like, well, if that's the
secondly,
case, then can I just be restricted land, and therefore it's okay if no one goes there? But yeah, continue.
but gonna be restricted. Like I don't like the. Sorry, I'm not exactly sure where to take this, because I feel like I've covered this, but like if we're saying that like there are minor plantations that people aren't, that we as a society don't care. I mean, I don't know. Like, I don't know if this say, yeah. I don't know what the answer is. I don't
Okay, that's
understand
fair.
like
I don't
why
know as an
some things
answer.
would be
I mean,
restricted
this is
or
the weird thing
not.
about plantations in general, because plantations are just like beautiful. You know, they're just like these like gorgeous places you can go, and then like people use them for all kinds of different things all the time. Like I don't know if we should have a sign out every single time someone does it, because it would literally just be for every plantation that's still being used, even by the ones co-opted by the state.
Yeah, I don't know how to interact with the question, Corey. I don't
That's fine.
I want to welcome Lactoid to the anti-Israel club. Well, welcome.
I said
brother.
I was having a little bit of fatigue. I wouldn't say I'm part of the anti-Israel club.
No, you said you're having fatigue too. You agreed with a very specific post.
I'm having a little bit of Israel fatigue.
I just want it stated. You don't necessarily have to be pro-Palestinian. Just be anti-Israel. That's good enough for me.
That's a good start. That's a good start.
Like, I don't need you to be pro anything. I don't virtue signal over here. I don't think I've ever virtue signaled, right? I leave that to Prime. I leave that to Doobie. I come from the pragmatic, right? I come from one side. But yeah, I get where you're tired too, brother. I see it. Shout out to you, Scott.
I'm just really like getting, I guess, tired with the U.S. like identifying countries and then just like dumping money into them and it being spent on bombs. I think that this is like a kind of a consistent issue.
Are you tired with Israel also?
That's our problem too.
Hold on, back.
Well, I see. I give is going to be the one who has the biggest issue with me saying this.
Listen. Spinning it on bombs is about as American as apple pie.
Okay.
I gotta say, there's nothing more. In fact, we should spend more money making more bombs so we can sell it to both sides for a higher price. Make better bombs.
You know what's like, we actually kind of do this, which is really sad. That our foreign policy is based off of like Gibbs's like.
Can we move the bombs though? Can we move the bombs away from
this one
area?
Don't think I'm crazy, but I'm just calling it like it is. Mask off. I'm just saying, maybe if we gave both Hamas and Israel nukes, and everybody knew they would just wipe each other out, and we could just make
Oh, oh,
Magaza
oh
Magisrael.
God.
That's you know what I'm
Okay,
saying?
so let's
We could
second.
just take it over, and it'll be wonderful. It'll be
I
perfect.
have 2 super chats. That are only 10 minutes old.
Oh, that's it.
There we go.
And the topic switch,
Yeah.
so it's a good time.
What if the plantation is now owned by the ancestors of a slave that worked there? And thank you, Alexander Wynn, who's been a homie, and Sean. Thank you for the gifted
I
membership.
already
from,
asked that. He doesn't
previously.
care who owns it.
Yeah. It doesn't matter.
Even if it's by the
so
ancestor, like the descendant of a slave.
I don't care if it's just simply a
He
descendant.
said he
who
called him a
wants to-
black capitalist when I said a black person. Is it
Yeah,
called black
black
capitalist?
Yeah, if I'll explain on this, right? If there's simply a black capitalist who wants to exploit this land for everything that it's worth, right, and is going to use the land for all the reasons that I've said, excuse me, that are I find disrespectful, then no, I don't care. Like you can, like you know, the like future, not everyone born of enslaved individuals, right? Like gives a fuck about that, like cares about that history and would respect that history. So just because they happen to be of the genealogical line doesn't mean that they carry any reverence for that land.
To
So
give
fuck
to give the super
Yeah.
chat question like the ultimate kind of steel man though. What if the guy who owns it can directly trace his ancestry back to one of the slaves that worked and died on the fields of that, and he specifically bought it with the intent of basically like saying of making some kind of like broader racial point. Like he bought it saying, you know, my ancestors died on this as slaves, and now here I am as the owner. Would you take it away from him?
Add one more thing to that. I want to add engage with that one.
Oh, we
And
were done with
also,
this.
that second one. What if he was like, "Fuck Whitey, I'm buying it to make a bunch of money. My ancestors died. I want to be rich as fuck like they were. My ancestors died here. My blood, sweat, and tears are here. I deserve to be rich because they fought and died here, or whatever."
Actually,
Like,
to that point, Gibbs, I was my other point to your memorialization of all of the other plantations of Prime was honestly going to be that you're just doing a lot of white advertisement for people. It's going to be this person owned this plantation, and now you're just making more prominent names of the people who we didn't know.
We could just change the names, like whatever. Like that's simple. Like we done with like how we tore down those Civil War statues, and then like oftentimes put out other statues, you know, in their place, memorialize different people. We can just do that, right? We can like if we found out names of enslaved people, or maybe notable enslaved people who had left there, like left from there, like their families from there, we could like name after them. We just do that.
Oh, okay, that's fair. That's fair.
But to deal with Lactoid, you're saying, sorry, Lactoid, could you repeat the question? Lots of things were said after.
A proud black nationalist who can directly trace his ancestry back to somebody a slave who worked and died on that plantation, and then his dad and his grandfather was a sharecropper, and his dad lived in the area, and then he was told stories of all this, and specifically in an act of black pride, he buys it and he says, "This is mine now. My ancestors worked in it, but now I own it." All right, are you going to take away that plantation from him?
As part of you know what, we could do it 2 ways. One, let's say that Prime is initiating this plan. Prime was president, Prime was the decider, right? And he's initiating this plan, right? It would be the Plantation Preservation Act of 2025. As part of that act, it could be just we take all the ones that have been identified as major, okay, right? We're reaching consensus here. Everything has been taken as major. And if your plantation happens to be major, then sorry, you lose it. But there could be an exception here, right? Maybe what we could do is say that, hey, like if you are going to be a private owner, right? Like you want to keep us from nationalizing this, well, then you have to, just like we do for national sites of historic sites, right? Just like we do for them, we can say that if you're going to live here, like you have to follow these rules. Like so I've known some people who her houses are those national historic sites, right? There's special rules as to how they can use the house. They can't just do anything with it, right? If that was the case, and we could just like tie them to these rules, then yeah, they can have it. They can be held in private hands until they break those rules, and then we take it. So Alexander Wynn also sent another $10 super chat. Says, how do you so delineate between the lack of African American sites versus the preponderance of Native American sites, memorials, and tribal lands. How do you delineate? I'm not sure. How do you not so deliver? How do you not so delineate? I'm a little confused as to what you mean by this, Alexander. Are you saying that do I have a problem with the fact that there's so many more Native American ones? And actually, I don't even know the number of Native American sites and memorials. I actually don't know. But I I support my Native American brothers and sisters having the ability to memorialize more places if they don't have enough, and certainly Black Americans to have more places recognized, because a lot of that has been buried. Literally has been buried. There's a whole list of race riots that happened, especially in the South, but not just in the South. And like we're just a ton of people died. We should be able to like consider those places to be memorialized as well, right? Or to make sure that moment in time isn't buried the way that it absolutely is buried now. So I hope that answers your question. I'm not sure if it does. Okay, so we can move on to another topic if people would like to. I got to take care of something that's really fucking annoying. Housemate of mine is being a fucking idiot. But yeah, like a really big fucking idiot. I gotta handle this thing. It's gonna take me like 2 seconds. But do we want to move on to what was it? The
U.S. imperialism, I guess.
Okay,
we're talking about
stochastic
yes,
terrorism.
I thought yes, Stochastic Carolyn was the only thing.
That's been the hot topic this week.
If anyone wants to put forward a topic, we can. Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, I mean, no, I mean, it was really just what is, like, you know, obviously I know Lactoid is not for the Hassan ban, even though it's only 12 hours and realistically it's not a fucking ban. But I do think I'm getting really sick of everyone doing the whole stochastic terrorism thing in terms of like anti-Semitism. And what I brought up yesterday, like if we're gonna do the whole like virtue signal all day, I mean, Islamophobia is on quite the fucking rise. You have Valentina Goma. Yeah, listen. I said virtue signal. I don't believe stochastic terrorism is necessarily real in the way that people believe it is, right? If we're going to do it, then there are going to be conversations with like apostate prophet and not so erudite when they're talking about Islam being a threat to the West and how, you know, it's not. Once again, that's what I'm saying. The stretch for me is that everything becomes stochastic terrorism at a certain point if you are just kind of hinting that this group of people doesn't necessarily meld with your society. And so it's like what's like the line, what becomes the line, and what isn't the line.
I'll tell you the line, Ollie. It's really simple. It's called American military dominance. That's the difference. We go from scholastic or whatever the fuck word is,
Nice.
terrorism.
Scholastic terrorism.
Scholastic terrorism. Gibbs' his main enemy.
It doesn't even matter what kind of terrorism, because here in America we have this one unifying factor. It's we could find an outside enemy and whoop their ass, and that brings Americans together like nothing else. We just need to find a new enemy. I think it should be China. We can all just hate China for a while, and that'll bring the Muslims and the Jews and the Americans here all together with a new enemy. And I think that's the solution. And
you already view China as an enemy.
Well, yeah, but not enough. After China's done, we can just invent an alien race and we can invade. I honestly think that the only way to solve racism is for an alien species to come, and then we can be galactic. I think that's the only way we can stop being racist.
Galactic racism.
I already see Lactoid's gears working for China. He's like, listen, I already did Russia. We can do China now too.
No, hold on.
Yeah, they're commies. He's not gonna like. Oh wait, you did start as a tanky, right? Never mind.
Lactoid says that he doesn't like China.
Okay, a couple things.
Otherwise,
a couple things. First of all, I do reject the ban of Hassan. I know it was a little piddling ban. He tends to get.
Can you explain this to me? I don't hear about.
Oh, sure. The guy at the embassy, the two people at the embassy got shot. And then it became like a frenzy online of like, oh my God, this was Noah Samson and Hassan Piker's fault because they've been, you know, hinting that the protests aren't enough and being, you know, we need to ramp it up. And they've been dropping little red flags or Fed posts or whatever. I don't know what a Fed post is. So if I'm using that wrong, you know, my bad. But and so basically Twitch bans him for 24 hours as they normally do.
Was he like a Hassan fan, or was that proven, or is it just people speculate the shooter?
I've heard people speculating about that. I don't know if it was proven.
It's just speculation. It's all BS.
Yeah, But and so he got a ban, and like basically before the ban, everyone was kind of calling, like, they're calling him a terror supporter, right? They're calling Noah Sampson, all of them, a terror
Online,
supporter.
they're calling him that,
This
yeah.
shooting happens at in New York or DC, I can't remember. I believe it was DC. Shooting happens in DC out of the Jewish American something. And you know, all of a sudden, well, right after, you have Bibi Netanyahu getting on Twitter saying that like saying free Palestine is basically the new Hail Hitler,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
And so now, if like people are relating like free Palestine or River to the Sea from like Noah Sampson and like these creators as stochastic terrorism, right? And if we're already calling them terror supporters, and if we're already going to take foreign nations' words as like, if free Palestine now means Hail Hitler, right? What isn't stochastic terrorism coming out of like free Palestine? This kind of all just leads to like kind of the whole deporting of you know, homegrowns, right? If everyone's labeled a terrorist, whether it be stochastic or terror supporter, right? These people are deportable, right? That's kind of what I see is
Yeah.
like the, you know, the logic that follows. I don't know if it doesn't.
Yeah. So essentially, I oppose the ban. I still do. To me, it seems odd how you if you ever want to see like a lefty leaning person go like ultimate super free market like capitalist, like ultra laissez faire, you bring up like some company banning somebody they don't like, or taking some action against somebody that they find to be reprehensible. All of a sudden, they're going to shift towards, well, it's a private company, they can do whatever they want. Private companies are the quintessential cornerstone of American society. Government involvement's evil. Like we can't do that ever. Like it's pretty obviously self-serving. It's pretty obviously like this sort of like inconsistent principle that is applied only when when there's some other principle being invoked, which is I think what really is that there is a obsession of power over principles among certain segments of the left and of the right, frankly, as well. There's a lot of right wingers who are celebrating this ban.
And-
I think that freedom of speech goes
I think
beyond the
it's
First
for a
Amendment
different reason.
for a different reason, sure. But I think freedom of speech goes beyond the First Amendment. Do I agree that social media bans are protected or are not protected under the First Amendment? For sure, right? Facebook banning you for like Facebook could ban everybody tomorrow who just simply identifies as a Republican, just to say we don't allow Republicans anymore. And this would be not in violation of the First Amendment. This would be perfectly legal. Facebook could do this. They are a private company. They can do that if they want. Would this be a major blow against the freedom of expression and freedom of speech? Yes, it would. Freedom of expression goes beyond just what the law protects. The law is really there. The First Amendment is there to codify protections for one segment of freedom of expression, but it goes beyond that. And the fact that they banned Hassan, by the way, when you look at the ban reason, Hassan wasn't even like glorifying this shit. They specifically included in his ban reason that the fact that he was covering it and denouncing it still wasn't good enough. The fact that he was covering it was in of itself enough of a reason for a ban, which is just a fucked up thing to do. I think that's just messed up.
Well,
So-
here's the thing with that though, right? Like you bring this up, and I think this is something important to like delineate right here, Lactoid, is that you brought up the right wing people being happy about Hassan getting banned. I think there's I can't say like for all right wingers, right? You know, you're a right winger, I'm a right winger, but I think that there's a massive difference in like the why they're cheering. Right, because they're saying, "Oh, Golden Boy Hassan on the right, like, has finally been taken down a peg. He suffered a 24-hour ban. It's not a real thing, but like, this is showing more fairness to people across the board of all political ideology." Now, whether or not that's true is whatever. But I think the other thing you have to consider in is that the advertisers, right, on Twitch are going, "Hey, listen, shit has gone too far one way. You need to like rein this guy in. The guy had a literal terrorist on not too long ago. Now he's like he's going through manifestos, and like I think that this is a case of them going, hey, whatever. Now I do kind of want to object to one thing Ali said. I don't know that yeah, perfect time. I'm going to object to one thing you said, Ali. I don't know that Hassan getting banned is an example of Islamophobia. So much it is a market, like
No,
a
no, no,
joke.
no, no,
Well,
no, no.
yeah,
Hassan getting mad wasn't an example of
right. No,
Islamophobia. That's not
and
right.
I'm not saying okay, that's fair if you're not saying that. But like,
Yeah.
I think that this is more of a market correction. We're seeing like more conservatives returning to Twitch. We're seeing more advertisers come back to Twitch. And then Hassan is blatantly going through a manifesto, which is against Twitch's TOS. If he'd gotten away with it and hadn't even got a slap on the wrist, it would tell people some people are above the rules. And in this case, if you're a private company,
that's always been the case.
sure, right,
He's still
exactly.
above the
And I
rules.
No,
though.
sure, maybe.
It's
And I mean,
consistency in the wrong direction.
well, sure. I don't know about that, but I think that like this is Twitch trying to say, "Hey, we're being more fair and balanced. Look, we slapped Hassan on the wrist." And I think if they're actually being more fair and balanced, that's a good thing. If they're going to ban conservatives for doing this, and we're going to ban Hassan for doing this, because they are a private company. If you're going to sit here, hold on. If you're a private company and you're sitting here saying, "We're going to be fair and balanced on who we're enforcing," then cool. If you have TOS, then you should enforce that equally. Now, if they're only slapping them on the wrist, they're not actually going to enforce this fairly across the board, and conservatives are still going to suffer. Then yeah, bad. But if it's like, hey, we're getting Hassan, and it's like a slap on the wrist, everybody needs to know if Hassan can't get away with it, you can.
Gibbs.
I think that's a good thing.
No, it's not a good thing. Look, we're going to be treated worse just by virtue of the fact that we're right leaning. Okay, we're the ultimate victims of the internet. Unironically, this is how it works. But the consistency, we shouldn't be like, but like you're demanding consistency the wrong way. It shouldn't be, well, let's like turn this into some kind of like deplatforming authoritarian hellhole for leftists too. This should be, well, no, we don't do it for them. Hassan does get away with this all the fucking time. Like the lefties do get away with this.
Go to Kick.
So how about we no, yes, and if Kick was doing this, I would be pressuring Kick too. I, as somebody who likes freedom of expression, generally puts pressure on platforms to not deplatform people for genuinely expressing a position they hold. This was not like Hassan jumping on and just like spamming the N-word or something, or like, showing pornography. This was Hassan talking about like his general thoughts on something, and my understanding is he wasn't praising it. Like he was actually denouncing it while he was talking about it.
The advertisers are calling.
I understand the advertisers, but this is also kind of fucked. Like, is our freedom like?
Hold on. It's not your freedom though, right? Like this is the issue, right? If Hassan wanted to go to Kick, he could. Kick doesn't care. He could say all the things he wants. Right?
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, he would have.
We could all go to 4chan, right?
I mean, yeah, he built it. Yeah, but he
sure.
built his business. He built his business in
But
California, and you're telling me
on.
you could just move to Texas if you want.
Yeah,
Like, that's not how
right.
that works.
Hold on. This is a big thing though, right? Is that Twitch has come out and said we're allowing more of the conservatives back. We're going to allow a lot of people that have been banned. Yeah, they have. They like came out. They even like there's rumored people like Aiden Ross might be getting unbanned now. I don't know if he calls the conservative camp, but they're doing mass unbans for people that like or whatever. So it's kind of like they're sitting here. They're trying to show, hey, we're going to equally enforce our TOS. Like, and you're like, I think this is something that's glorifiable if they're actually going to follow through. Now, I think it's just for show, personally, but like if they actually follow through and start banning everybody that breaks the rules, that's better than them going unequal enforcement. Wouldn't you agree?
I hold on.
Equal enforcement is better than unequal enforcement is what he's trying to get you on. Yes, equal enforcement obviously is better than unequal enforcement.
I disagree. No. I disagree.
No?
Yeah, I hate it.
Right.
And here's why I hate it. As long as there's unequal enforcement, we can bitch about it and have a stronger point. I'm dead serious. I'm dead serious about this.
That's a fair point.
That's
a fair point.
If they keep letting Hassan get away with shit, that means that we have a stronger point when we argue for more freedom of speech for our position.
Fuck,
yes. Yes. No, I mean this.
This would be like me going, you know what? It'd be better to be a slave because I can say, wow, I'm going to bitch about it. That's ridiculous, bro.
No, Gibbs. The actual comparison would be, this would be like you being a slave and then you demanding your neighbor also be a slave. And then you say, oh, look, it's fair. We're both slaves. As opposed to you arguing for your freedom and your neighbor's freedom.
Crazy. The libertarian here is arguing for more control over private companies.
I'm not. Motherfucker.
Gibbs. He wants private companies to be controlled by the government and not have control over what they're.
That's not what I'm saying.
Yes, it is though, because you're sitting here going, they shouldn't have a TOS. They shouldn't be able to enforce private rules on their own stuff. And you know what? Because Hassan broke their rules, we shouldn't make the company enforce them equally. What we should do is we should take away private business.
I'm not saying we should take away private businesses.
How very communist of you.
Gibbs-
I
You should
knew
be
it.
mad at
let's-
him.
let's
You yell at
not
him
play
until he
once
changes your
again.
mind.
Whoever said it, he
Yeah, but
might
Gibbs
like
can
kinda-
only argue in
Okay,
reduction.
wait.
right?
I want.
He
Well,
argues
here's the
in
thing, though.
reduction. That's
Here-
his. That
Well,
is
it's
his
not just
tactic.
Gibbs. It's not just Gibbs. A lot of people on Twitter are also under the assumption that I was meaning having the government come in and confiscate Twitch. It's not what I'm
That's what
saying.
you're saying, though.
That was not what I was saying. I'm not
That's what you're
saying.
saying right
I
now.
no, that's not what I'm saying right now. I'm not saying the government.
you are.
I am not saying the government should come in and mandate what Twitch's TOS should be. I'm not even saying the government should come and unban Hassan. I am
He's
not
just saying
saying that.
private companies shouldn't be able to.
I
follow
am
their
saying
own
that
rules.
as a
That's what he's
I'm saying as a private individual, I have a right to bitch about what private companies do.
Oh,
and I
wow.
think that
You
Twitch.
just want to be a victim.
I am a.
see.
But we're both conservatives on the internet. We are victims.
We got woke toyed over here. So
It's
some of us
not
rise
woke.
above it.
No,
This is why I was against DEI as a Latino. I don't want being picked up and just hired because I'm a Latino. I don't want the.
Are you in favor? Are you in favor of deplatforming?
If you want your participation trophy,
Gibbs, are you in
hey,
favor of
somebody get him some
deplatforming?
baby powder.
Are you in favor of deplatforming?
I mean, define deplatforming.
If Twitch wakes, if some employee at Twitch wakes up one day and says, "I don't think that your conduct fits TOS," ban, and now Gibbs and me, and we're all gone forever. Like, you're cool with that? No big deal.
Yeah,
That's Twitch. Twitch is a left. Twitch has always been a left wing platform.
Yeah,
like
it's a
there's never
private
been.
company.
Like everyone knows that.
Well,
There are plenty of other platforms now that aren't as left. There, you can go on Twitter and say the worst shit imaginable, and everyone.
I mean,
And
unironically-
Twitter's better because of it.
No, it's not. It's
say
Yes,
wild
it
shit all
is.
but unironically, I say wild shit all the time. But like, there's a line that I don't cross. Like, I've never even come close to using any slurs. There's like jokes like y'all make, like, and this is like not like a bash, but I've gone on like leftist stuff, and I hear leftists and liberals or whatever say some of the most racist jokes I've ever heard. And like, I'm not condoning them because I know they're jokes or whatever. But like, I would never make these jokes
No.
because I know that there's an eye on me, right? But what you're advocating for is, hey, these guys got their own private company,
You're
their
missing
own
the point.
TOS. No, I'm not missing it. You're
You are.
missing the
No,
point.
I'm not
You're
missing
going,
the point.
hey,
Because that's not what
hate a
happened to
company.
Hassan. That's not what happened to Hassan.
No, you're saying I hate a company having their own private rules, and then someone that's an employee, nay, a contractor, an individual
Nay.
contractor working for them, they should be, somehow special snowflake and get their participation trophy. I didn't know that we had woke toyed over here.
All right, all right. Hey,
There's a brand. There's like a brand of
let me just
conservatives,
clarify.
especially on like Twitch, people who just they chat and they get mad. They get, oh, you're gonna ban me because I'm a conservative because I love Trump. Oh, like there's just a type, like you see that type of person in Twitch all the time that just constantly like that.
He wants this thing to bitch about.
They want to be a victim. Yeah, it's
he wants to be a victim, guys. Victim politics. We
Okay,
found it.
all right.
Victim toyed.
Obviously, you guys are missing it. Let me clarify.
Blacktoid's going on Blue Sky.
No, I know. I'm a victim. I'm defending Hassan. Yeah, typical
race
right-wing
politics
MAGA
from
victim.
now
Yeah,
on.
for sure.
Virtue
I don't want to hear
signal
race
for the right,
politics no more,
Lactoid.
like-
All right,
Virtue
let
signal.
me clarify what
Virtue
actually.
signal.
Let me clarify what
This is
actually
the
happened.
woke right. The woke right.
Here's what
The woke
happened.
right.
Here's what happened to Hassan. Right, Hassan
Okay, tell us
was
woke
on
righty.
Twitch talking about a specific event that happened that was in the common discourse. This was a terrorist act that just happened. He brought stuff up and was reviewing it, and he was doing so like in a way that was entirely within his opinion. And he wasn't even praising it; he was actually denouncing it. The ban reason specifies that. This concerns me because this standard actually does seem very arbitrary. I often talk about like how people are totally fucking like wrong and lopsided when it comes to the Ukraine situation, and how there's like, for example, on Twitter over the past couple of days, I don't know if you guys have seen it, but like there was like this massive bombardment on Kiev that everyone's been talking about. Of course, nobody talks about what literally directly preempted this the last 3 days just prior, which was constant drone attacks on Moscow, right? This was literally why this bombardment happened. Now, am I, by even talking about that, potentially running afoul of this new Twitch TOS because I'm talking about this attack that happened? I mean, I'm talking about it. I'm explaining it. I'm not necessarily condoning it, but I am explaining it. Is that okay? Or is it not? Or here's the reason why it's not okay. If we're going to be no. This is the reason why it's not okay. The reason why it's not okay is because enough people pressured Twitch and their advertisers to go after Hassan this one time. That's what happened.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't like that.
One time. They've been pressuring him for a while to go after Hassan because he's now operating unchecked. Let's just make that clear. Like, come on.
I mean, they're just kind of pissed that their boy got banned and can't get on, so they've been kind of going hard. I think it is a little bit bitch made
wait,
for
who?
like.
Who are you talking about? I think we're talking about different people. We're talking about because this is like I'm arguing from the righty side, right? If you're going to argue Destiny or whatever, that's what you're kind of going with.
Destiny Asmon, right? It's gonna be Destiny Asmon, the ADL. Like these are the people who are
I don't
calling
watch any
for
of
this.
those people. Like right, like so like when I'm sitting here saying this, it's not coming from that area, right? Like I maybe like the other lefties are arguing that thing, but with what Lactoid's arguing is this is a prime example of the woke right. He wants the government to come in,
Yeah, avoiding deplatforming.
and protect his feelings. That's what he's arguing for.
Okay,
It's
all right,
just-
so
If you get deplatformed, like, hold on, I would literally be upset, Gibbs, and just give you credit here. I would go on Twitter and be like, unban Gibbs, like this is bullshit. Stop deplatforming him. Would I be a bitch for doing that?
yes, a little bit.
okay,
Damn.
so pause there. Pause
Loyalty
there.
makes you
I,
a huge.
I appreciate the support,
We got a
but it is
super chat.
Yeah,
little bit of a bitch thing.
money, and we gotta do this. It just came in, right? $100 from
Nice.
Alexander Wynn.
Woo.
Thank you for being awfully kind, Alexander Wynn. Thank you, seriously kind. The reason why they gave so much is because they DM'd me like a multi-paragraph thing, so I'm gonna read it all. Well, that's what's gonna happen now.
Yeah, that's fair.
That's fair.
Yeah, I think
Is it
so.
from Perplexity AI?
Parody AI.
Okay.
That's what it really is.
Okay, so what they say is just to expand on my question, because remember they had another super chat previously. Okay, they say just to expand on that, Native Americans were given 56 million acres of their own legal sovereignty, a treaty status, and all burial sites are protected by law, old and undiscovered. Approximate deaths 5 to 15 million. Best approximation, I guess, of the Native American genocide. African Americans have some national monuments, 1.5 to 2.5 million deaths as slaves, best approximation. How do you square that circle? Almost nothing was ever given to former slaves, yet the USA provided so much to Native Americans. It's not a complaint that Native Americans get too much, but a question of why African Americans don't deserve anything at all. And then another thing. After the Civil War and the abolition of slavery, formerly enslaved African Americans were set free into into a society that had no intention of supporting their transition to citizenship. They received no land, no restitution, and no protection from the economic and racial violence that followed. That's absolutely correct. In contrast, after decades of brutal conflict with the United States government, many Native American tribes, while deeply wronged, were at least acknowledged as distinct political entities. They were granted sovereign land, treaty recognition, and a degree of self-governance under federal law. This isn't to say Native Americans were treated fairly, far from it, but rather to highlight that African Americans, after generations of forced labor and systemic abuse, were given nothing, no land, no reparations, no autonomy. Instead, they were left to navigate poverty, white supremacy, and segregation alone. The difference lies not in who suffered more, but in who was recognized after the suffering ended. So that's a whole statement.
Yeah,
I'll
Lactoid.
you Lactoid. I'll reply to this. And anyone else can as well. Corey, I know you had like your hand up separately for something else as well. But let me my initial thoughts on this is that I think so much. I think a lot. I think this touches on a lot of stuff. One, the differences in how our society interacted with Native Americans and African Americans. Right, African Americans were stolen from their homes, right? Stolen and taken across the Atlantic, and then worked for centuries. Native Americans were like, from the American standpoint, interacted as a foreign power. Right, even then, even they called them savages, they were still a foreign power. And so the way they interacted with, the way they settled their disputes was as they were selling with a foreign power. They didn't look at the slaves, the ones that are captured, right? As that. We don't even think in our American, even in the most lefty of circles, we don't talk about like restitutions for the African nations where those people were stolen from. Like that just never comes to the conversation. You don't even get anywhere in left circles, right? Like, so we don't look at it as a loss by a foreign power, like a conflict with one. So it's just like people within your land who were wronged, right? Okay, so there's that. That's one level. But then beyond that, there are like how we just treat black people and the contempt that is I think part and parcel to American society, in which like white slave owners got restitution for their slaves that were liberated. They got restitution for that, but then we promised but refused to do so for black slave owners. This is not the only time that's happened in history. It's happened in other countries as well, where that is the case. It's a matter of systemic slavery, or sorry, systemic racism, as to that, and actual actual interpersonal racism. Like it's a level of contempt for these individuals. And I think an outright and purposeful um, attempts to block the economic enfranchisement of these individuals, right? Like we don't want to put this amount of money, this amount of restitution in the hands of these people, because then that would raise them up, right? Like I think so much of American politics, honestly, and this is a longer conversation. We don't have to have it now. We can have some other time, right? We can have a conversation about how so much of American politics relies on there being a lesser, that people will vote against their interests, especially the Republican Party, but will vote against their interests because those policies pushed by conservatives promise to keep a hierarchy in place, and even the lowest white man, right? By that I mean the least economically. Um, a person, a poor white individual, right? That individual feels that they have something up on, they have a leg up on those well, they won't call them black people, they'll call them something else, but the black people, right? They look at black people, they say like, I am above this other individual, and that in itself sustains me despite anything else. I don't care about anything else. I'm going to hurt the other. So much of our American politics is based on that, and so it makes sense that there is resistance and within the Republican Party and the Democratic Party, of they're fucking liberals, so of course, to actual uh, uh, systemic restitution. That upsetting this complicated balance we have within our racial hierarchy would cause a tremendous political backlash that they're just not willing to deal with. So no, you aren't going to see an equal treatment between Native Americans and the awfulness that they suffered and Black Americans because it's just they were just looked at different. You're not dealing with a foreign power. And one final thing I'll say is that this was put up by like many Black thinkers, but they're like, we'll never be free unless we have some sort of like powerful third party nation, like Black third party nation that can put pressure on the United States. That like you see with other identities, right? With like Chinese individuals. What happened during the COVID pandemic? We had like attacks against our Chinese brothers and sisters, right? Which was awful. But they have, I mean, they have China. They have fucking China, right? And they have the other nations because all of them weren't Chinese. They were just sometimes Asian. They were attacked. You know, it is what it is, right? But they have a foreign power that can interact with the U.S. and be treated with respect. That doesn't not the case for any of these sub-Saharan African countries. Just the way it is. And so, and you can look at for India, you can look at for Israel, certainly. Israel's the best example of this, how we treat Jewish individuals of their ethnicity compared to everyone else. I'll say it. So, like, until we have that counterpoint, that counterweight, it won't be the same. That's some Black thinkers think that. Anyone else want to respond to that? That $100 super chat, you can if you want. If not, that's okay as well.
I got a couple responses.
Sure.
I'm sure you guys are gonna love them.
Oh boy.
All right. So
He's a little drunk, remember.
no, I'm doing okay right now.
And
So
he loves China. He loves it.
I
It's
don't.
his favorite.
I don't. So it's an important question, and this is a question that often comes up when discussing reparations. Just generally, like the political conversation, is the question of, well, we gave a whole bunch to the Native Americans too, and I actually agree that we did give to the Native Americans way more than we did to the
We gave
descendants
too
of slaves.
much.
We gave and give far too much to the Native Americans. Both Native Americans and Black people today have benefited tremendously from the existence of the United States. much like every other racial group in the United States, and it's morally wrong to steal millions of dollars from
Benefited from their own slavery.
people, to steal millions from individual people and transfer it based on race. It's actual racism. And two, the reservations specifically are nepotistic, inefficient ethno-states, where most of which, about 3/4, have blood quantum requirements to even be a citizen, have incredibly disproportionate wealth distribution based on family hierarchies within them, make a lot of their money off of industries like gambling, casinos, stuff like that, which are questionable ethically. And in the land that they do control, because it is ethno-states, if you're somebody who's not part of the tribe, of course, and you have to be a certain blood quantum to be part of the tribe in most cases. If you're not a member of the tribe, let's say you're a white man or a black man, you're essentially a second-class citizen. You don't get to have the same say over your community as, let's say, if you lived in anywhere else in the United States, where you actually are a equal citizen under the law. So my proposal is to abolish all of the reservations tomorrow, incorporate them into the states of which they reside.
Sorry, what was that last part? I missed it.
Abolish all the reservations and incorporate them into the states.
Oh, okay. All right. Awful.
And then abolish
okay.
the BIA as well.
BIA is
Bureau of Indian Affairs.
Bureau. Thank you. That's awful. We shouldn't do that. Sorry.
Keep the ethno-states, right? The blood and soil ethno-states.
Well, no. So, but here's the thing I was going to say is that the thing is reservations are problematic. The way that we treat them, one, is awful. Like these places are like extremely, extremely rural. Basically, we kicked them off to like the worst plots of land, and then we didn't like modernize them, right? So like a lot of the places don't have like indoor plumbing because we don't have like sewer pipes running there, right? We don't have like they don't have water pipes, right? So they have to like get their water shipped in from other places. It sucks. That's how we treated them, and I think maybe to your point, Lactoid, I think that we'll continue to treat them that way if we have them as these like little separate nations, right? And it just gives us a reason to have that a border, and so it's like, or like it's not forced segregation so much, but it's a level of segregation, right? And once you have housing segregation, it's very easy to do any other kinds of deprivations to a population. We see that in the cities. So I think it would be better if we could somehow integrate them into our societies. But it's hard for me to tell a Native American that like they may want to do. I wanted to give them the ability to be able to practice their traditions without necessarily like state intervention.
Yeah, they could have a society like the rest of every cultural group does when they want to like get together and do their customs and everything. That's fine. I don't like the idea of having blood quantum ethno-states within the borders of the United States. And even the reservation, by the way, there are a lot of poor reservations. You're right. There are a lot of reservations that are very wealthy because they get a fuck ton of money from both the government and from like their exclusive and oftentimes licenses on casinos. But you should look at the wealth distribution within those reservations. It puts the rest of the state, like you think wealth distribution in America is a problem? Look at these tribal councils and like the different families that control these tribes disproportionately.
Yeah, I know. Capitalism sucks.
Tremendously wealthy, and it's nepotistic.
Capitalism will do that to you. But
they're better capitalists than us, I guess.
So Corey, did you want to speak on this, or we got to go? I know you want to speak on the last thing first.
Well, I did want to sort of address lactose or clarify or crystallize something for lactose.
And then we'll go to Gibbs.
Yeah. When you say, if I remember correctly, in what you just went through, when you say Native Americans and Black people benefited, what benefits specifically are you talking about?
Well, for like Native Americans, it would be like plumbing.
Okay, and for Black people?
Plumbing.
It'd be like living here, you know.
Can you be a little bit more specific, or just plumbing?
I mean, there's more than just plumbing, like PlayStations.
Deep fryers.
I'm using one right now.
Like Prime gets to stream now.
Wait.
You know?
PlayStations are not unique to America. So like,
I know, but they are like dramatically disproportionate amongst Americans compared to Africans.
Well, okay, so It's the relocation is the bet. Just to crystallize it.
Yeah, it's the
like,
it's the relocation and like eventual
So I-
absorption into the society for sure.
okay,
It's the
so
argument every 19-year-old
Yeah,
makes. Like, hey,
I know.
listen,
I
Christopher
wait,
Columbus
like,
isn't
It's
that bad.
undefeatable.
Black people
Logic
get to live here now.
Ali, can I please interact with
Yeah.
So I'm curious. Okay, does that also overlap with, let's say, human
We're gonna
sex
come back to
trafficking? As in, if a girl is human sex trafficked in the United States, do they benefit from that?
The actual
Let's say
well, let me explain.
if
Hold
it's
on. The actual victim themselves, I would say no. In the same way, I wouldn't say the actual slave themselves or the actual Native American who's like, getting shot. Like all that would suck, right? I'm talking specifically about the descendants of that never experienced this and are in thus a better position. I think the child of a sex trafficking victim could be better off if they came from like a very poor third world nation and are now growing up in America and didn't experience that kind of trauma to them. Sure, but
Okay,
the
so,
actual victim themselves, I would say no, because like
Okay.
for I would rather be free and like living in a shack out in the middle of nowhere than I would be a slave.
Okay, yeah. So in that scenario, okay, you would say that in that case, just like you would say, I think you have said explicitly that black people have benefited from slavery.
Alive
Some
today,
human
black people
sex-
alive today.
Yeah, some human sex traffickers have benefited from that.
The children of.
Okay.
Because there's no black slaves alive today, right? It's the children, the descendants of, and the same thing with the Native
Right.
Americans, right?
Okay, so you would let's say moving forward, you say descendants of slavery benefit. We never say there have been benefits to slavery.
I always make it very clear because this is a very contentious thing to say. I make it very clear: black people alive today, like the descendants
Okay.
of. I'm not talking about the actual slaves. Being a slave would suck. I would much rather be free, even in like a very like poorly developed country, than I would be a slave. 100%.
Okay.
Okay, so Lactoid was right and he was wrong at the same time. What's crazy is we come on these panels, and every week Lactoid professes his love for libertarianism, and then he turns around and he says some commie baby back bullshit like, "Oh, I don't know, I hate meritocracy," which is what the natives have there.
That's what they have there.
That's what they have. The families that were the best at making money rose to the top.
Oh,
And
yeah, that's what that is.
that's
Yeah.
capitalism in its prime. As Prime spoke, I like that version of capitalism. He bitches about it. He also called what was it, casinos of dubious moral fiber. I would argue, as Lactoid has argued many times, that if you have money, the more money you have, the more moral you are. And since casinos literally have the right to print U.S. currencies, no one's more
They're the
moral
most
than a
moral.
They're the most moral. This is by Lactoid's own metric.
Uh-huh.
So crazy that
And
he's now
duels. More moral than the church.
now that he's turned into, well, the Catholic Church is very rich, but now that he's turned into the Communist China Party, for a second there, and spoke about his oppression of things he deems immoral, I don't know. But as for the rest of it, I also agree we should abolish the reservations and the whatever Bureau of fucking Indian Affairs, because someone brought that up. Christopher Columbus, he may be Italian, but Cortez wasn't. Cortez was Spanish. And I, a proud Latino, say we saved all these tribes in Mexico from the evil
Spanish people
cannibalistic
aren't Latino.
Aztecs. Yes, they
From
are.
hell too, right? You
yeah,
Catholicize them, so.
Doubly, I guess you could argue that. But from these evil cannibalistic culture that were killing people up to some periods, 80 to 8,000 in 3 days over at some temples. There's a reason why all these tribes rebelled against the Aztecs. Now, the United States, a little bit different, a little bit different. But one thing's the same. They got their bitch asses conquered. And I'm sorry, I don't give a shit. You lost Crimea River. The Confederate States, they lost. Mexico lost to Texas. Then they lost to Texas. Then they lost to the United States. Now we got the Rio Grande as a border. We see this all the time. The loser cries. I don't think they should be getting any special privileges. In fact, they should get a spanking. That's what they should get for this ethno states they built. We should push racism laws and try them under those crimes, just like any other American citizen, which is what they are, because they get dual tribal citizenship and American citizenship. We should abolish these reservations, which there are problems with, but we shouldn't punish the casino owners, because those people are prime examples of American entrepreneurship. More people should look after these people.
Just the
and
poor
be
ones.
like
You should
these
punish
proud
just those ones.
The poor ones
Just
are the ones who
real-
should be punished. I agree.
Spanish people aren't Latino.
They're absolutely Latino.
No. Like people from Spain, like Spanish people, not Hispanic, right? Like Hispanic people can be Latino,
Yeah.
right?
What
Like,
language are they using?
This is very difficult. They're arguably Latino, arguably not.
Latin.
It's very.
they're
Yeah,
not
yeah,
Latino.
really.
They're not
Latino.
Latin.
I mean,
Hold
they
on,
weren't born
they're
in
not
Latin
Latin.
They
America.
are
No, they're
Latin.
not. Hold on. They are
They're
Latin,
Spanish.
which is they're Spanish. They're Latin. They speak a Latin Romance language. They turn swarthy and brown whenever they get under the sun for any extended period of time. That sounds about as fucking Latino as they like Spanish music. That's Latino. They fucking have the running of the bulls. They have bullfighting. That's Latino.
Wait, like
Guess what? They would have cockfighting too
European
if it wasn't outlawed.
Spanish. Wait,
I hate to
European
make it for you, Bravo.
Spaniards.
You love Ricky Martin.
European Spaniards are not Latino.
They
They're
are
Hispanic.
100% Latino.
No.
They are
They're
the definition of Latino.
Under some definitions they're not, Gibbs. This is like a very
Yeah.
No, they're
semantic
not.
one.
No, they're not at all. They're not at all.
Under this whitewashed, anti-establishment Hassan-based stereotype that he's got going on, maybe not. But
Wait, are Turkish people Arab to you?
Well, hold on,
Yeah.
real quick.
No, they're Turkish.
Well, some are. Some are. The Turks don't want to admit that.
No. No.
absolutely.
Listen,
Wait, are you telling me
they'll-
the Caliphate that used to be there, the Ottoman Empire, that wasn't Arabic ran for centuries?
No, it wasn't.
No.
Yeah, it was.
Turkish.
It wasn't.
It was Turkish.
Listen, let me just break this down for you. If you're not in
No,
Asia
wait,
and you're
the
Muslim
Turks-
and you're not in Africa and you're
no.
Saudi and you're probably and you're in the Middle East region, that means you're
You're
probably
other.
Arab.
When you're
They're
in the
all just
miscellaneous
Arabs,
category,
that's,
Wait. Are
You're getting lumped.
Are Afghanis and Pakistanis also Arab to you? Because they're
There's not
like,
enough. There's not enough of them that matter.
There's not enough Pakistanis.
there's not enough of pocket.
Not after India's done with them, there won't be.
okay.
Oh my God,
All right.
Spaniards are Latino. Insane.
Okay.
Nice.
Well, hold on.
They
So
don't-
here's the steel man. Here's the steel man, Ali. This could be referring to simply like his
Black
direct
culture?
ancestors that were Latinos, even though eventually you can trace them back to Spain, like a lot of Latinos, right?
Yeah, I mean,
No,
or
what-
we
the
can
white
trace my
ones,
an-
yeah.
Wait,
or we
wait,
can
wait,
trace my
wait,
ancestry
wait,
back
even
all
the
way-
non-white
hold on,
ones.
hold on,
No, because colonization and invasions
or-
exist. Wait, there's
I
a
can
lot of
trace my
French.
ancestry all the way back to the Romans that fucking conquered Spain.
I can
back in the
trace
day. That
ancestry
would
So
to
the
be
me.
Romans were
better.
Latin too.
I
They
can-
were
that's
Latin.
about as
They were
far as-
Latin.
Wait.
That's about
No,
as
they
far as-
weren't.
It was
Yeah,
literally
bro.
called the
Wait,
Latin
wait,
Empire.
A lot of Lebanese
Yeah,
people
but-
can trace. A lot of Lebanese people can have traces of
How do you
French in
become-
them because
you
of
can't be
colonization. Are we
more
now
Latino
French?
than-
They
We're
spoke
talking-
Latin. They literally spoke Latin.
There are more Lebanese
that's
people
not,
that live in
that's
Brazil
not the
than
Latin
in
we're
Lebanon. Are
talking
we
about.
Brazilian?
We know that's not.
That is absolutely
That's not the
what
la-
we're talking about.
That's not what the hold on. When we
Source?
when we're talking about in common parlance, right? We're talking about Latin America, right? We're talking
how
about
convenient
the-
for this
the
part.
space-
That's not what
I'm-
I'm saying.
that's what it is. I don't know. It's
I'm
not
talking
convenient.
about
Like yes, it lines up with reality.
Listen,
It's
yeah,
like,
you know what,
no, we
also,
don't go back
hold
to.
on.
We're not
Oh,
talking about ancient
we
Roman.
only go back
Oh my
when it's
God.
convenient for you.
Wait.
I see.
You guys are
I
going by
see.
language.
All right.
Wait. You can't go by language, right? The language
How about
traveled,
culture?
right? Latinos speak Spanish. You are Hispanic, right? You are a Spanish-speaking people, just like I'm Arab, right? I am an Arab of an Arab speak. I speak Arabic, right? But like,
Arabic, yeah.
like
okay.
that doesn't
Oh,
mean
listen,
you are
you're Arab,
Spanish. You're not
wait,
Spanish.
Okay,
You're
let's follow your
Hispanic.
let's follow your
Oh,
logic.
God.
You speak
Oh.
Arabic, right?
Yes,
Are you from is Lebanon in what region?
the Middle East.
Okay.
I am
Cool.
also Middle Eastern. Yes.
So you're Middle Eastern.
yes.
Okay, cool. So would you say that
Oh.
you're Arabic?
No, I'm Arab. I speak
Arab. Oh,
Arabic.
you're
Do you
Arab.
think
Oh,
you're
you speak
Spanish?
Arabic.
Do you think
Eh,
you're
hold
do you
on.
think you're
Yeah, sure, I am.
Spanish?
I'm literally Spanish. Yeah, I am literally.
You're a
Spanish.
Spaniard. Your descendants are of Europe.
Yeah,
You're of
my
European
my
descent.
family- yeah, my genetic genealogy would be.
You stop being
uh,
Mexican.
Well, no, I'm Mexican because that's where their nationality is from.
No, you're Mexican
A lot of
because that's the
Mexicans come
region
from
of
Spain.
that's.
Yeah, I mean,
what?
yeah.
A lot of Mexicans like come from Spain, genealogically speaking.
The white ones,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, the white.
And,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
a lot
they-
of the mixed ones can trace some of their ancestry.
Yeah,
back to
because
Spain
they
as well.
So a lot
interbreeded
of Lebanese. That's like
afterwards.
saying a
but,
lot of
like,
Lebanese people
Sure.
come from France.
Sure.
That's like saying a lot
Yeah.
of Lebanese people come from
We know what-
France
oh.
because there was colonization of
Sure,
of the
yeah,
French in
and there's a lot of
Lebanon.
Lebanese people who could probably
Colonization
say,
is one word
like, my
for it.
genealogy
Conquered
is
is
French.
another word for
Sure.
it.
We know what the whites did when they got here. All right, so
They won.
We're all from England because we're speaking English.
Okay, so you're
They did
Mexican
win.
and
No, you're right. They won.
Spanish.
They won.
So you're a Spaniard. Why do you claim the Mexico flag?
Because mi padre, Dande in Durango, he's fucking Mexican. He lives in Mexico. He's literally was an illegal immigrant from Mexico. He's got Mexican citizenship. I don't
what
know
about
how
your
much
madre?
more.
Your madre from Spain?
No, she would be also from Mexican descent. Her parents are from Mexico, but she lives in America. I don't know how you're
Look,
confused about this.
look, okay.
That would be
Hold
like
on, I'm not the
we're not,
confused
we
one.
don't
it
have to
seems
argue.
like it.
We don't have to argue this. We don't have
I
to argue
promise
this.
you,
Let's
promise
If
you, I'm
your
move on
not
hold
for
on,
the
if
life.
your
confused one.
parents or if
We,
your parents are from Lebanon,
Yeah,
okay, are you
I'm
Lebanese
Arab
descent?
American. I'm
Are
Lebanese
you
American. Yeah,
okay? Yeah, okay, cool. So it's my parents, they are
yeah,
Mexican nationals, or one of them
yes.
was.
So
That
you're
would be
Mexican.
me. Okay, and if now let's just say your great great grandparents were from I don't know Iraq. I don't know if they are or not, but say they're Sumerian.
No, I have my
and
lineage traced back technically to like Saudi and Persia.
perfect, Saudi. So
Like I'm
you would
Lebanese.
say, yes, you're Lebanese, but you're of Saudi descent, correct?
Not really, no. Like you're
I
talking
mean,
historically Lebanese. Like, yes, we're
you,
all from Africa, if that's what you want. We're all African. We're
yeah,
all of our
yeah.
pure African
Well,
descent,
allegedly
if
we're
you
not
want to do
now.
that.
Apparently, they
Yeah.
keep
Go back
changing
far
where we're
enough,
from all
sure.
the time. Well, no, apparently we're now from a different area. They
Go
keep
far enough
changing
for
For
all
it.
bacteria.
everyone,
FYI.
Who changed that? Who changed that?
They just like I
Science.
feel like they found a Homo sapiens in like in the Urals recently again, like that were like older. They keep going back in these different areas all the time. One like a few 5
I
years
don't know about
ago,
that.
they found someone old.
Yeah.
Yeah, fine. They find these old bodies all the time, Cro-Magnons in different areas
Yeah. Okay.
that
All
are
right.
further and
Well,
further back.
you give us a source for that. All right. So but
Always with the sources.
I want.
Hey, hold on, problem for you.
Oh my
I've
god.
read a lot into this. You should trust me on it, just like you always say.
No, I don't. Oh no, I don't tell you guys all to trust me on
You
these
told me
things.
that. You told me that literally last week.
Well, one time does not mean always, Gibbs. Just
Okay, and the
FYI.
week before.
And the week
Damn.
before.
Find the
And
place.
Well,
Corey, if you had good memory,
and
you'd remember that.
No. I can
and
I
Tim
contest
Pool.
that. I
He also
contest
stood on
that.
Tim Pool. That's 3
I-
right there.
No.
Okay.
I want clips to back that up.
Oh,
Yeah.
I can say it. Remember, we talked about. I can tell you the exact one on Tim Pool. Actually, was when we were talking.
No. I'm not talking about Tim Pool. I'm talking about.
I actually had a bunch of sources on Tim Pool. Like I had a whole list of sources.
Hold on,
endless list of
Prime.
sources on Tim
And then
Pool.
we talked about something you said you didn't know about, and then right after that, you said, "Oh, I've read all about this. You should trust me on this." So I'm just saying that's what we're doing.
Maybe I said something. Hold on, but okay. I want to go back to.
We're just using all of my tactics now.
Okay. All right. Okay. I want to go back to the thing that we were talking about before in terms of the stochastic terrorism and the Hassan being banned. We only have a limited time, and Lactoid DMing me. I gotta leave at 11:30. Okay.
Morocco, I
Sorry
got it.
about
All right. He's like, I got a lady coming over, right? I gotta be smelling nice for her. But he's gonna bust out the essential oils. But anyway,
got the crystals all lined up.
he's got to set the mood. All right, I get you.
This is from ChatGPT. I'm posting
Rolly on
it
wrist,
in
Rolly
the
on wrist.
No.
in the thing. Here's what it says: Morocco is the oldest Homo sapien found now.
Morocco,
Okay.
Africa?
Morocco
But that
Is in
doesn't.
Africa.
is it?
But that
Yeah, I guess
doesn't.
it is.
North Africa.
Even hold on.
Africa.
Even it's the
North
oldest
Africa.
skeleton that did. Okay.
Whatever.
Okay.
Oh,
All
for
right,
the
great.
record, Middle Eastern country, not Arab, right? But they
Okay.
are Middle Eastern.
No, they're not.
Moroccans aren't
So-
Arab.
Well,
All
they
right,
did
so
become Middle Eastern. Why was that? Was it the right of
we are
conquest?
we're moving forward. We're
Are they
moving forward.
Turkish though?
We're moving forward.
Islamization,
Okay.
baby.
We're moving
Oh,
forward.
yeah, it would be
Okay.
Turkish, wouldn't it?
We are moving forward, or actually back.
Would
So
not be Turkish.
so I'm going to respond to the things that mostly Lactoid said, because usually he drives me red with rage. But no, I was going to say that I'm not a free speech absolutist, right? So I think I've said that multiple times. I'm not a free speech absolutist. I think it makes sense to have some limits on speech. Where those lines are, like ask me from day to day where I personally would draw those things. But in our society, we seem to acknowledge that. In general, even within our laws, that there's limits to speech, and I'm okay with that. I don't cling to the mantra that more speech is necessarily always better. So I'll start with that. But how restrictive I am, that it is up in the air. I think private companies should be able to do what they want. Now, I've said this multiple times. I think you've been here for me saying that Lactoid when we talked about it. This is not the first time we talked about, like, especially what Twitch has done, right? And I've said private companies should be able to do what they want. But the next part, right? Now, and I think this is to Lactoid's broader political goals, right? I think maybe you'll like this. Because I think the problem that we're having here with all these debates is that power is concentrated in the hands the internet power, right? The power of these platforms is concentrated in the hands of a few tech oligarchs. That's the society we've created. It's not the way society has to be. It's not the way the internet had to be. It's the society we created. One of the reasons why it's been concentrated in the way that it has is because of IP laws, right? We can create these walled gardens, right? Protected by IP, to say that the data here, right, is owned by this company, and you can't copy them and you can't transfer your the data, even if it's data that you've generated. If because like this is how so many people were thinking of the internet when it was like first brought, like in the 80s and 90s, right? This is the ideas. The internet looked so much differently back then, right? Like just a completely different animal. But people thought like they foresaw new ways to connect, right? But like many people thought about like being able to like control your data, be able to move it around, right? Like and we're people are trying to make those platforms where you own your own data, and so that you aren't beholden to whoever is in charge of this particular platform. We could have a decentralized internet, right? But we have through our laws not done that. We have encouraged centralization and strengthened centralization, right? So I'd like to dismantle that. I like it so that Lactoid gets banned, probably like rightfully so from YouTube for saying something horrible. And then but he goes to he can take his videos, right, and his followers, right, everyone, all the audience is built up, and so like go to Rumble and just start from there, right? And like I or however that we would imagine this, I would want I think that there's no reason why we have to have these just few individuals who are the deciders. They can be the deciders for their specific space, but we don't have to make it so that Twitter owns like the short form like messaging like platform, right? Or Facebook owns like the long form like messaging platform, and yada yada. We could decide to have a better society, but we haven't, and that's why we're in the situation that we're in.
No,
Thoughts?
so this is
I
still a
think you make
problem.
it too easy to transfer. Like transferring from one platform to another is like not an easy thing.
It's
Like
not.
Ali, that's no, that's what I'm saying though. Like the reason why it's not is because of the laws that we've created. Like it. So have you heard of Mastodon? Right? Have you
no.
heard of? Okay, so it's using and I forget the name of the system. There's a name for the underlying technology, and it's escaping me at this moment. But basically, it's a decentralized social media platform, and you can like transfer like your own data wherever you want within these this decentralized network. We could just have built a system like that, right? And then it would be easy, right? That Blue Sky is actually apparently part of this network as well.
True Social is
And
built
then you
off Mastodon, I'm pretty sure.
it's your show. So okay, well then yeah. So you should be able to transfer these things. But as it stands now, today, yes, those wall gardens are the ones that we allowed to be put up, and IP is one of the reasons that makes that the case. But go ahead.
Well, okay, well, I guess two things. First of all, the walls exist now, and they're not going anywhere anytime soon. So I'm trying to
we
like,
can rewrite the laws.
good luck with that, right? I'm trying to focus on like
Thank you.
currently in America, what is my goal?
Okay.
And my goal is not to cheer on the silencing of people because they happen to read over something and share an opinion that's not even all that hot, right? Just because they happen to cover on something seems kind of like a bizarre reason to silence somebody. And the second thing is, I'm concerned as to the broader idea of just saying, well, let's just make it super easy for everybody who believes this one thing to go over on that one, and then everybody who believes in this other thing to stay here, or maybe
Group
go
them
over
all
on that one.
together.
Because this is like in an age of increasing political polarization and echo chambers and social rejection and isolation of people who don't agree with you. I think this is overall unhealthy. I think it's not a good thing. I don't think it's a good thing that like you go on True Social, the kind of people that go on True Social specifically to get one opinion. Like that's kind of messed up. I don't like that. People spend way too much time on that, right? And the same thing can be said of Blue Sky, right? The same thing could be said about a whole bunch of different platforms. I don't like the idea of just saying I'm going to cordon myself off into my little echo chamber and only hear the same opinions over and over again. I'm only going to befriend people who have the same political beliefs as me. I'm only going to do this. This doesn't lead to like a better society. What does lead to a better society, in my opinion, is pushing for a cultural understanding that we have kind of these services that we all use, and we try our best to not remove people from them for dumb reasons. And in my opinion, this was a dumb reason to ban Hassan. And the fact that it is a dumb reason to ban Hassan, I think, is in of itself bad, but it also makes him a little bit of a martyr. Which, if you don't like Hassan, why would you want to do that?
Are you
My-
just against the ban because like he didn't in your mind violate the TOS, or it's like as in because you mentioned previously that well he wasn't actually endorsing it, as in if he endorsed it, the manifesto would then you
No,
be
no,
okay with
their TOS is already like far too broad. It's my point. Like the reason why I keep emphasizing that he's not even endorsing it is like to me, to most people, this should seem apparent that like they went too far. Um, I I think that he should not be banned even if he was endorsing it. Okay,
yeah that's why I'm curious as to
frankly,
why.
sure,
So
but
do you,
but I'm guessing you guys don't. But surely we can at least make some common ground. And the idea of like he was just covering it and denouncing it seems pretty ridiculous to ban him for that at least.
well is your line for a justification for a ban is just whatever's that would be consistent with the First Amendment, or like
Yeah,
uh,
I push for my idea. My conception of freedom of speech is anybody trying to earnestly explain or elaborate on a idea they hold, like a political kind of worldview, any kind of idea covering something like viewpoint neutral restrictions I can get behind, right? Like there are certain platforms we just don't want, especially with children on, like hardcore pornography being shown or whatever. I understand that, but like this is just a political position. By the way, this wasn't like even like that high of a political position. This was just him covering an event, like talking about an event.
yeah, I understand that. But then, are you essentially saying that Twitch should not have a TOS that they can't like they as in like again they just make the follow.
I push them to change it, yeah, as much as I can.
Okay, but
Yeah.
as it
They
if
should be
you
allowed
had
to. They should be allowed to. I just hate it, and I speak out against it.
oh okay, you're just expressing your opinion.
Here's a good analogy. I also think Twitch should be able to racially discriminate against their employees. They should be allowed to only hire black people and fire everybody else. I would speak out against this if they did that. I would say that's really shitty. You guys shouldn't do that. But they should be allowed to, legally speaking.
Okay, fair enough.
I don't think it's that bad with Twitch. I mean, compared to other platforms, I mean, Hassan was only banned for like a day, right? Like they do this thing where they only ban you for like
Hassan
a few
specifically
days.
has significant plot armor. It's true.
I
I
mean,
think,
he
I
makes
think he's
significant
already
money.
back.
Yeah,
He makes him a
yeah.
lot of money. So
I mean,
who
plot
doesn't?
armor is the money, as always. So we can dispense with that. Binks, you've been quiet. Did you want to say anything? I want to make sure you have space if you want to.
No, I'm good. I did
Okay,
earlier,
all
but I
right.
forgot what it was. Sorry.
Fair enough.
Can I say something?
It said many
Yeah,
things
yeah.
actually.
yes. I muted. No, it's fine. No, you go ahead.
Okay. Can you hear me?
Mhm.
Okay. Lactoid, it's amazing for you to say something reasonable and then immediately say a racist thing following that. I appreciate that. There's consistency in
Great
your
skill.
work. I love that.
Wait.
You.
But by being consistent, are you saying that the racist thing and the reasonable thing are both reasonable?
No, I'm saying that you being racist is consistent with you being you.
So both reasonableness and racism is consistent with lactoid, is what you're saying.
He's
Yeah,
a
you're
reasonable racist,
Reasonable
consistent.
Reasonable
can be
racist.
debated.
Consistent racist, yeah.
Yeah,
But
Lactoid.
also reasonable, because you said it was very consistent to me to say something reasonable before.
Reasonable racism.
So I'm
No,
a reasonable
no,
person.
Lactoid. It's reasonable that you are racist because it is you.
Okay, all right.
That's all I wanted to say. The Hassan thing is dumb.
Wait, the banning is dumb or Just Hassan in general is dumb. That I can get behind.
I'm not allowed to say that Hassan is dumb because they'll make me a bad leftist, apparently. They all are mad at me whenever I'm upset with Hassan about anything.
I'll say it. I think he's pretty dumb.
The party line is that Hassan is amazing, and if you are mean to him, then you're hurting the cause, okay?
There's a lot of lefties that seem to be like obsessed with hating him for some reason. Probably because
We do have like this like
he's in
Well,
competition.
Well,
with
I would call it jealousy of the clout.
Yeah, yeah. It's a.
I
they're
think there is like
competition with
this
him.
neurosis in American discourse where we have like the biggest like humanitarian disaster of the 21st century. We have like a shooting that's like devastating, and all we can do is talk about fucking Hassan like every single time. I don't know what it is about us
That's the thing that I have an issue with, because like the Hassan heads, it's like they keep doing. You're probably not watching the same people that I do, but all they talk about is Hassan and Ethan, right? And I'm like, you people are making the Palestinian genocide into like a weird drama circle jerk about Hassan's exes. It's bizarre.
It's
like
just a big virtue.
Everything has to
signal
be
that they're
filtered
just
through
using it.
Hassan. Yeah.
Well, I think.
bizarre.
Well, I think the thing, and this is where I was going to go with this, is that people in general, as always, don't care about what happens, in other parts of the world. It's hard for people, especially when we're talking about a tragedy of this scale, a genocide. To even if they have a level of empathy, it's hard for them to engage with this topic, especially if it's not happening to anyone they know of. So what's always easier to engage with is just drama, right? And so there's drama around Hassan, around Ethan Klein, even Sam Cedar injected himself into that for a little bit, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that's something that you can go with. You can follow that easily, right? And you don't have to look at the bodies of dead children, right? You don't have to look at destroyed buildings and read about how Israel is starving a population. You don't have to do any of that, right? But you can
Yeah, but I
follow
think it's
back and
worse.
forth.
I think it's worse because what they're doing is actually like, because I talk to these people, right? And they convince themselves that their entertainment drama obsession is them caring about the genocide. It's like Ethan Klein is saying bad Zionist stuff, and Hassan is fighting him. And every time I hear every stupid story about Ethan and Hassan, I am actually fighting against genocide. And I get, obviously it's human that you are parasocially attached to a really big streamer that you think has reasonable politics, right? And it's much more easy to engage with the streamer as like a proxy to any serious discussion, right? So it is human. I'm not frustrated with the audience as much as I have some criticisms of the way that Hassan handles some of these things. But I also had similar criticisms back when Destiny was alive to how Destiny was handling the same type of shit, right? So it's a big streamer problem. I don't think it's a specific person problem, but it is frustrating. A few months ago, I randomly went onto a Relevant stream, and a Relevant said that he thinks Hassan is a stochastic terrorist.
Oh, Ali's favorite word.
Hey, shots. Sorry, go ahead.
Like you need an
Yeah.
excuse to take shots, Gibbs.
I
yeah.
always need an excuse,
I don't know. I thought it was hilarious. So yeah.
And
I guess if some people feel that he's a stochastic terrorist, they'll be very worried about him being platformed out.
I haven't talked
Katie,
to.
I want to applaud you, by the way. You said something very wise there when you were saying that you were.
That doesn't sound like me.
You did though. You hit the nail on the head. You were saying that you didn't like it when Destiny did XYZ. I mean, Destiny is a Dixiecrat. So he does like slavery and all these good things. He hates black people. It's pretty clear to me. So like, I can see why you would be not a fan of when Destiny was talking about.
I
some
don't
of these
endorse
things.
these claims.
Well, I mean, he said it himself, so it's fine. I'm not saying
I
I mean,
yeah.
if you watched
He's
a
a
lot of his
memo
stuff,
prime?
it's no surprise that him
No,
and the
no.
neo-Nazi Connor
Gibbs
could
Gibbs
do
is
it
a
together.
Gibbs. No, sorry. Destiny is a horrible person. He's a Zionist, right?
And he hates black people.
A strong Zion. And I don't know if he does about. I don't know about that part, but I
Just
know
look
he
up
doesn't
Destiny
have
hates
a
black
problem
people,
with
and you'll
it.
see a million clips.
Okay.
And it's not
all I'm saying is
pretty
that I
definitive
haven't.
evidence to me. There you go. That's,
That was
I
stand up in
know.
court, right? Just
there's
Google it.
some people like fanatic or something. Maybe I don't want to put words in his mouth, but I know some
Yeah, he's a
people
Blue Dog
within the
Dan.
black community have said similar things.
Well, a
about
fanatic
him.
said it.
Okay. I'm just saying.
He's just
Some people
giving
have,
it
some people have said that. All I know is
I'm
that
just
he
saying.
is for the Palestinian genocide. That's the only part that I really care about at this moment. That's all I
And
was saying.
sexual
Right? So
crimes.
he is a terrible.
Prime. How many things do you think me and Fanatic agree on politically? Probably not many. And if we're both saying that
No,
he hates black
no,
people,
that's not how that works.
I'm
He's
just
a big
saying.
fan of the Alamo.
Maybe he is. I don't know, but like I'm just saying, when two
Who
people on
fanatic
far
thinks is
side-
racist incorporates most of humanity, just to be clear. And so you,
Well.
so you thinking that he's racist, you're statistically likely to have fanatic agree with you.
That's neither here nor there, all right. I'm just saying the evidence supports my claim. You can Google fucking Destiny being racist, and it's just like he's just making the same talking points as Big Cotton once again about 1 million times, except more racist because he's outright racist. Those guys try to like hide it a little bit, even though they were arguing for slavery.
Liberals be racist, right? I'm just saying that like I haven't arrived at that specific conclusion, but I'm not saying that specific conclusion is not true. I'm just saying I don't have an opinion on that specific topic. But yeah, he is for like the deaths of endless Palestinians. Fuck him. But yeah, sorry. Go ahead. Anyone else? No.
Me.
All right.
Yeah, I also think white people are racist. Not just liberals.
There you
Yeah,
go,
you bad
Gibbs.
white people.
3 people agree that Destiny's racist now.
Hashtag not just liberals.
Yeah, you bad white people.
Who's you? You.
I'm a
He's
person
Mexican.
Of, I'm Mexican. I'm a person of color.
Well, Destiny's
Yeah, you look
Cuban.
very colorful. Okay.
Whoa! Just because he's white passing, you're going to assume that he's white?
Yeah, white passing. This is terrible.
Please.
What? No. There's something to explore here a little bit. Maybe.
You want to?
Hold on. Gibbs
I'm
claims to be Mexican.
And who is white? That's what
Claims
we're.
to be
me said I'm
Mexican. Are you disputing his claims? What?
I'm saying that he claims to be Mexican. So if he's Mexican, he's not white, right? He says he's ethnically Mexican, right? Isn't that right, Gibbs?
Look at that.
Look at that.
There you go.
What is that?
It is a poncho.
A poncho.
It's a poncho.
Good for you.
Yeah.
Is that all it takes to be Mexican? Pretty sure it's not.
I also have a sombrero.
Also sombrero. I got it.
I mean, I also speak.
Would a white man rep a Mexico's like poncho, just chilling, just have it at the house, right next to his Texas flag? You know.
I do. I also have the Mexican flag and the Spanish flag in the house as well.
Can you answer this?
Now speak Spanish for us and prove it.
Okay.
Mexico.
I know you don't believe in
Is Corey white? Is Corey white?
Verga grande en tu culo, you know? Big fan of that, Majin is.
Culo.
Right. Just kidding, Majin. Muy kamako.
Gibbs, can you be quiet for a second? Thank you.
Yeah, I was asking you something.
The white woman telling the minority to shut up. Look at that.
I know.
So Corey is Corey white? Is Corey white?
Do you want to rank up like minority cards right now? Because I think the only one who can beat me is Prime. Okay, let's chillax on it.
I think
I'm
got
Lebanese. I got some skin in the game.
I'm the most oppressed of all, but I still want to hear if Corey's white. Is Corey white?
I already said that he is. But Lactoid, I know you don't actually care. You have nice like gotchas that you think are funny. Race and ethnicity are not the same thing. I know it's confusing for racists. But so yeah. So apparently people can have an ethnicity and be white. Like I'm Jewish and white, you know? Again, something I know a lot
so you
of
are
racists
white.
have an
So
issue with.
you are white.
You're white. I mean, aren't Jews white too?
Not all Jews.
Isn't that a whole thing that Jews just get counted as white people now? Is that what that's what I've heard?
Not all Jewish
White
people
Jews are white. The non-white Jews are in fact not white. You know,
So
like
what you're
black
saying
Jews.
is I have more of a POC card than the Jews now. That's what I'm talking about.
Well, half of them, some of them.
All right, we're moving up in the world in the Victim Olympics.
Okay, I'm still a girl Jew, so I win.
Ooh.
I identify as a woman now.
Look at
This panel only.
Real quick, Prime. I got Prime.
We have a panel of full face makeup.
I've got to go real quick.
I did. I was the only one that
Thanks for having me on.
Sorry. Banks, thanks for coming through. Really appreciated you.
Yeah, appreciate it. I've had getting a lie down, but yeah, it was
yeah.
fun. Hope you have me
hopefully
back.
we can have you in the
Peace.
future.
Cool.
Yeah.
Thanks, guys.
Take care, Biggs.
Bye.
Be well.
So, all right. Well, this is weird. So let's maybe move to something that we can all engage with. So, well, first of all, Katie, what's the
Race is something we can all engage with. That'd be a fun.
Do you think sociologic is white?
I don't know what you.
Hey, hey.
He's Turkish.
No. If we're gonna do lineages, I'm Phoenician. If we're doing
But-
that,
A Phoenician.
Oh, really?
But,
Where
like,
was
I-
the Phoenicians based? Where was that at?
Levant.
And really
Basically.
interesting in the Levant.
If you're
What
Phoenician,
other country owned that
you're
for a while?
almost the original American then.
So, shout out to the boys. What can we do?
We can actually engage. So, if you want to engage with race, right? Then we can engage with the fact, and I've talked about this many times before in the past. How this one word race is used in like 3 different ways. I should write this down because I always forget what the 3 are. But it's important, and I always forget. But like one is in terms of like your blood, right? Like who your parents were, right? That's race. Then there's culture, right? Like what culture do you actually engage with? Do you engage the culture that is typically associated with your blood or not, right? But that can be a separate thing. You can be a white person engaged in quote unquote black culture. And 3 is the one I always forget. But it's I forget. But it's important that I remember that.
I don't like this character. Do you? Is that how something that you came up with, or is that something you
No,
read
it's
somewhere?
something-
Because I really
something
don't
I
like
came up with.
Could I be
characterization.
culturally black, Prime?
You can engage with black
Yeah.
culture, right?
So I would be culturally black.
But you can't. Yeah, you can be.
Drewski, you didn't see Drewski's video? The
You
white,
can.
white boy that grew up in the with the hood family.
I
Like,
just want
that's
to know.
what
If
it was.
I just want to know if Prime thinks that I could be culturally black. That's the only question
You
that I want to
specifically.
No,
answer.
you can't pick up the
Me
culture. No.
specifically.
No. I'm saying that when we I'm saying that when we use the term black, right, or we can use it from other races as well. When we use these terms, we are talking about multiple things, but still saying using race as a concept. So you can engage with that culture, right? Deeply engage with it. But it would be weird within English to use the term like I'm culturally black, right? For a person outside ethnic minority. Now, hey, I didn't decide the rules. I'm just saying that it's weird. People
Okay.
would not like that, but I'm not saying that's fair. Maybe we should
Factoid,
say
have you
that
watched
Lactose
Malibu's Most
culture black.
Wanted?
I mean, he wears FUBU, so
I do wear
that should be
FUBU.
enough.
This is why I had
No, have
an
you
issue.
watched Malibu's Most Wanted, Lactose?
I drank Hennessy last night.
Have you watched Malibu's Most Wanted?
I've never even heard of Malibu's Most Wanted.
Oh my God! Please,
I've watched the
watch
Moondocks
Malibu's
though.
Most.
Okay.
You gotta watch
Please
Malibu's
watch
Most Wanted.
Malibu's Most Wanted. You will have it'll be the funniest hour and a half of your life. Very funny movie. You will love it, and then you will come with a whole new perspective. Where yes, you can be culturally.
All right, I'll take a look. I'll take a look.
Here's the thing, this I think this little thingy-majiggy that just happened is why I think I didn't particularly like the categories that you're using, because especially when you say like that it's about like being culturally insert race, and honestly what there are like basically 3 2 depends
There's
who you
3.
ask.
There's 3. I just can't remember the third one right
No,
now.
I meant
always forget. I gotta write it
races.
down.
There's 4 races,
Oh, okay,
right?
sorry. Oh, sorry.
Technically.
I don't want to say it out loud. I feel like there's no way to say this that anyway, it's so my issue with like what you said about when you phrased it like that, and maybe this is me doing autism, right? Is that it feels like culture or blood comes from like an essence of a race, and I think like I like the idea of that people are being racialized, right? So even something like black culture or white culture is is like it doesn't come from like the blood of the race, because the blood of a race doesn't exist. It's not a real biological concept. So it's more like any racial culture, which again, black culture, we mean, I guess, American black culture, not like general black people. It's like it doesn't come from the race, it more comes from the conditions that come with being racialized, right? Usually, or like old traditions. So that's kind of what I took issue with, because it creates a confusion, especially for bad faith people like Lactoid, where they really like to essentialize race, and so
Well, no, it's not that okay. So you can say it's bad to essentialize race, but like that's I'm separating it from the morality of it. I'm talking about how we use these terms, and simply it is a case that we interchangeably use the word race when we're referring to multiple things. Now, actually, I think I remember what it was. So it was genetics, race separately, and then culture, race slash ethnicity. Sorry, ethnicity is the thing I meant. Genetics, ethnicity, and culture. Um, so you can uh, uh, have by genetics mean that like hey especially in the American context because it's different in other contexts
I agree.
you can have like a black ancestor recent black ancestor and you might claim to be black, right? Someone with like lactoid skin color, right, could have a recent black ancestor like a black grandfather, right? And like people say, well, I'm black. That's what they're referring to, right? Well, of course, I have this black ancestry, but that's not necessarily the same as the ethnicity, right? Um, and that's also different from the culture in and of itself, right? There's a distinctive culture that people refer to as being Black American. Now, again,
What
there's a
you're saying.
centralization happening here, right? And that's a bad thing. But that's just like how we use the terms.
Yeah, I agree. I do think that it's more that there's a lot of what I will call like intentional ignorance about the way that race is taught, specifically in America. And so even just the concept of like engaging with what race is like a sociological or an anthropological concept actually is versus, before I started engaging in like American discourse coming from Israel, I would argue with Americans like ethnicity and race is exactly the same thing. Why do you even need two words for it? And it's like it took me a long time to be able to like really understand the difference just because like in an American context it's like really potent the difference. Like it's but
We have a
before
very
that I couldn't
specific.
really engage with it. Probably
We
because
have
I
a very
didn't know a lot of black people.
we have a very specific formulation. But before then, I know our friend Lactoid has to leave.
I
Um,
also think.
okay. Once we started questioning his ethnicity, all of a sudden he's got to
There's
leave.
no
No, I
doubt
got
about
you.
my entity.
I no, I got you.
He's a
But first of all,
Spaniard
Who
from
do that,
Mexico.
Lactoid,
Lactoid? Why did you question his ethnicity?
I'm a
I
pure
was just
Hispanic.
investigating. That's all I was doing.
Just
Lactoid,
asking questions.
Just asking questions.
Lactoid, thank you for being great and always being such a good sport. I thought we had a really good conversation, and I think we came to a level of consensus, right? So that's great. I got you to spend taxpayer money. That's fantastic.
Well, let's not go too far.
But thank you, Lactoid, and I really appreciate you always.
Yeah, no, I appreciate you. I appreciate everybody here. Lactoid, you can find me at Lactoid TV and Twitch, Twitter, and YouTube. I just want to say one last thing. Not only am I not racist, I am the least racist person by far. I don't even see race. Okay, doesn't it's not even important to me. I
Can
look
you
at
define
somebody
racism
and
for me?
I don't even know because I just look at people and I just see a person. I just see a human. Okay. There was, unironically, there was Bill Maher actually had a really good bit one time where he was talking about how like white liberals are by far like just the most difficult person, like the most racist people, the most difficult people for minorities to be around. And it's because like in their heads they're constantly like, oh my god, it can't be racist. Oh my god, oh my god, oh my god. They're just like it's running through their mind, right? They're just hyper obsessed about it. And then like, and they really want to get like a black friend, right? Because like, oh yes, I'm hanging out with the black guy. I'm hanging out with the black guy. Yes, I got a black friend. I'm hanging out with a black person. And Bill Maher said, no, no, no. You're just hanging out with a person. Don't be fucking weird about it. And I think most of the less problem with race can be tied up to that simple allegory. So anyway,
Definitely not the case. No.
Lactoid, a
I
master of
think
race
the
relations.
joke in itself, I think it has a lot of truth to it. But like most of our problems aren't.
nah,
Don't boil down to
that's
that.
most of it. That's most of it. Anyway, I'll catch you
Okay.
guys later.
That's all of it.
I think most of the problem with white people in America still not knowing what racism is comes for that allegory. I'm not gonna lie. So I do think
I,
Gibbs,
yeah,
thanks
I
for
just want
being
to
here,
say,
friend.
yeah, thanks for having me. I always enjoy coming on these.
All right. Thank you guys so much for tuning in today's episode of Lactoid TV. It looks like Gibbs is going to hop on off. So I'm going to go ahead and raid on out into Prime, and I will catch you guys later.
That goes out. It's gonna be real fun. I feel like that's very